I don't feel like coming up with a goofy way to start the podcast, so fuck it. Hello and welcome to The Nen Show. I am Craftsdwarf, your host, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
I've been hearing, like, fire trucks and stuff driving past my house for the last, 15 minutes or so. So clearly, where there's fire, there's The Nen Show podcast or
something. Because
something.
this ark's on fire, I guess.
Hey.
I don't know. That's a phrase people say. So I don't really have a lot of comments to specifically talk about. Like, Gelcock Respawn had a bunch of neat ones, but, I just don't have anything to say. Maybe I wasn't in the best mood when I read them last night. How about you, Mathwiz?
Yeah, one main comment that I had was one of their comments was about the Dr. Ichigaki team fight thing. It was just a really obvious thematic tie about people needing to move.
Yeah, which happens.
People needing to accept mortality and stuff, which then, we kind of mentioned it the last time that it makes the whole Genkai actually surviving thing kind of weird, because if you're supposed to accept mortality and then I guess it's fine, but it's not ideal. But yeah, okay, so that fight is a little better than I gave it credit for. I still don't find it that interesting, but I at least get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's even if it's technically good on one level or another, I still don't find a lot of the arc very interesting. So, yeah.
I think Karabé is also pointing out more differences with how the anime adapted the story. So if anyone's interested in that, they can check that out.
Anyway, I guess we're going to get right into the discussion of what is kind of easily my favorite arc. I'm not super hype on Dark Tournament, obviously, but I'm pretty confident Three Kings is not going to suddenly blow my mind. So yeah. And you're also a fan of Chapter Black, right? Because you're as Mathwiz, aka Dark Tournament, is incredibly overrated.
Yeah. So my stance, and maybe things will change with our discussion. But my stance when I first went through Yu Yu Hakusho was that Dark Tournament kind of had a weak start, but then it got better and ended really well. Whereas for me, Chapter Black started really well, and I was a little uncertain on the ending. Which even now, I can kind of, I don't know. I like the themes that are present in Chapter Black. It's a big arc with the themes. And also, even just on a purely base level, just consuming the story and the conflicts that are involved. There are some non-battle battles in this arc, which are really fun. Togashi in video games. He's no one's done it before. He's the originator.
That I'm not sure about, because I'd have to look at the timing with because he actually.
I was gonna say, please don't take that comment seriously.
Okay, gotcha. I wasn't
serious.
sure because you haven't fully caught up with read a lot of JoJo. So because I actually was reading a bunch of Togashi interviews. I think Sasuke Shota fan linked one that a bunch of ones from the Viz Jump release, and there was actually one I don't think I've seen. I have to read it in full, but in one that was it was a Q&A thing. He mentions that the territories were pretty much inspired by JoJo, which would have been running at the same time.
I did remember seeing that comment.
Yes. I don't know which came first, the Chapter Black Game Master battle or the because even if the Darby, because there was the Darby the Gambler and Darby the Gamer, and so towards the end of Stardust Crusaders, which would have been going at around the same time, I think. When does Stardust Crusaders end? Actually, let me check. Stardust Crusaders was over at this point, so it definitely because it ended in 1992, which Chapter Black would have just been starting by the end of 92, I assume. My numbers might be off at earliest. I'm not really trying, but anyway, yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting. It's cool, especially for Yusuke and Sensui. the villains are really stand out in this series, I guess, for me at least. But anyway, starts off, Koenma's talking about some weird shit happening in the human world. Votan goes off to tell Yusuke literally in the middle of class. That was funny, like, they have this whole exposition drop, and it's like, class is in session, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the teacher's like, who are you? Are you a student here? And she's just like, passing through, bye.
Yep, of course we find out that, I think, Respawn even said it in one of his comments where it's like how the Black Book Club that kind of sponsored the tournament got, destroyed with the tournament, but Toguro more or less granted what Yusuke's wish would have been by allowing for Genkai to get brought back, and she does kind of do some stuff in this arc,
Yeah.
So, I don't want to, I wasn't too, I was just kind of whatever about the death, the bringing back or anything. But I guess it also ties in Toguro, why he didn't kill Kuwabara. He didn't want to take anything from Yusuke. So, though I guess, he still hasn't lost anything. It's just a threat of losing something. Which, I don't know. So anyway, there's a bit of a conversation with Kuwabara and Yusuke where he mentions that, he feels like he's reached his, peak, and he's kind of bored, that's one thing this arc goes a lot into, is, Yusuke's, what he enjoys from fighting, Sensui directly even, talks about it.
Yes.
And here he's kind of bored because he feels like he's reached 100%. So that's what I thought was interesting, is that he's, become more like Toguro, I guess. He a little later, he even has the part with the boxer where he punches him and he's like, yeah, that was just 30% of my power. And that's a very Toguro thing.
Yeah.
I
hadn't considered that, but yeah, there is that one line, which is very...
Yes, and then there, of course, the Sensui fight, but we will get to that. But it's also kind of, I guess, I hadn't thought about it until, because right after that we get the three guys who have the territory abilities who are working with Genkai. And power, Yusuke is stressing about his how he feels like he's hit his ceiling on power, and yet then we get introduced to combatants who don't exclusively use power, and they even frame it in a pretty solid way later that fits to the conflict, and I was like, yeah, but I'll try to talk about that when we get there.
The start to this arc, this is, I think, maybe the main thing that I see, which at this point I don't even remember who had made the comparison, but when someone had mentioned maybe it was even in our comments, but when we did Bleach and we got to Fullbring and people were like, someone somewhere, if it was in a tweet or a comment, I don't know, someone had mentioned that it's similar to Yu Yu Hakusho's Chapter Black, maybe in less generous terms than what I just used. And so I kind of see it, maybe there was an inspiration there, I don't know.
I mean,
but then also there could be other stories that have a similar start like this, where the character is they just had this big fight and now they don't really know what to do with themselves, and then boom, interference and things happen.
Yeah, though I guess now that you mention it, because it's actually kind of at opposite ends, because with Yusuke he feels like he's at his peak, where Ichigo was at his lowest. He had nothing. He had no power, and he kind of wanted to get that back. Though honestly, reading Chapter Black and trying to think about Fullbring, it's they're only kind of similar on such a a basic surface level. It's they offer such different things narratively. I'm just how are they comparable? That was my kind of feeling. I like both. I might I don't know. I need to reread Bleach already. I say already, but it's been over a year. I promise I'm gonna make videos soon. I just need to reread it on Bleach. Might have a Yu Yu Hakusho video in the works too. Just saying. I don't think that's really surprising, because the one aspect I've definitely taken a lot of interest in is Yusuke's whole thing that I've been talking about with fighting. Because, like, yeah, I remember when I first read it, I think part of the reason for my low score was the anticlimactic ending. But at least, I realized that thinking about it later, or more recently, I realized that how it fits Yusuke's character arc. So, or at least I think it does. I still need to reread it, but we'll see. But anyway, Yusuke, Mr. I've reached my peak, gets, like, immediately kidnapped. So I guess not.
I guess this is also kind of an interesting start for the arc because the main focus of Dark Tournament, like the main appeal of it was like Yusuke's conflict with Toguro. And so then like in this arc, we immediately start off with the protagonist who had the big fight in the last arc gets like abducted. And so we get a little time to like focus on Kurama.
Yes.
And mostly Kurama, but the other two are there too.
True. But yeah, they sort of like, or Kuwabara runs over to the high school, to get Kurama, and I think he even said, or like,
yeah, he's like, we don't need Hiei, let's just go.
Yep, and yeah, it was weird because they referenced Doraemon. Which I thought it was weird because, like, I know who Doraemon is, but even then, like, I mostly know him as, like, a really, really popular character in Japan who has the same actress as Monokuma from Danganronpa, which is something I like, but it's, like, it seems weird that they wouldn't localize that, even though, like, when did this volume come out? Like, how many people knew about Doraemon in, like, 2000, I don't know what year this volume was released in, so I can't even say, but, I just thought it was weird. Because this is the Viz release that I'm still reading at this point. I swapped over at volume, like, how did you read this? Were you comparing them side by side, or?
Yeah, what I was, I don't know, I was kind of flipping back and forth, and I was definitely comparing some of the things, like, lines. There would be, there were certain lines I remembered from the Twitter thread, but there were other ones where I could just kind of, like, tell that. Or mainly it was like anything I thought was important, I kind of went and double-checked with the fan translation. But there definitely were certain lines that I was like, this feels like a Viz-ism. This seems weird.
Yeah, because how I did it is I read, because it starts in volume 13, like halfway through. 13, 14, and 15 I read the Viz translation, and 16, 17, and I think 15, 16, from 15 on I read from the, or 16 on I read from the fan translation. So
yeah, the only problem I had with the fan translation is it does the thing where it like ups the language, so everyone's got to be cursing at each other, and then there's also just sometimes just like grammatical errors and stuff that I'm just like, no, my brain.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, we see the underworld tools again. Like I think I mentioned, like, oh, these don't come up again, but then they kind of do actually. Well, different ones. And Botan even mentions they're upgraded, so they get a little bit of use. They blow the whistle and Hiei falls out of the tree.
Yeah.
Dork.
Yeah, it's funny because like they're like, oh, he could be anywhere, but he is like right behind them or whatever. Which I don't know.
Plot convenience. I don't know. I don't care.
I meant that more as like I don't know, what does that say about Hiei? Like, I don't know. He says that like he doesn't want to be in the human world and that he doesn't like he likes to be off alone, but he's actually just like tailing them.
That's true. Yeah, he I can't quit you. Kind of.
He's too shy to actually just hang around them, I guess.
Yeah, he's a fucking nerd. Anyway, so yeah, they follow the tools to the artist's house where they don't really have a group name. So how do I refer to them? Genkai's territory users, I guess. And that's like the twist. So they go to the house and we get the
territory trio. There we go.
Territory trio. There. Okay. Yeah. Rolls off tongue. Alliteration. Yeah. Math is good. So yeah, they get to the first round where it's word games basically against Kaito. And the first one is they can't say hi. See, this is what I mean. This especially with language. I always wonder how it's being like translated or like And this one, see, this is the part where like I very vividly remember the anime, or at least much more vividly than earlier stuff. Like I watched some of the beginning. some of the Genkai selection for sure. Maze Castle, I don't really remember watching the anime for. Dark Tournament, I definitely must have saw some of it. But Chapter Black, I'm pretty sure I was like invested from like because I especially remember the Kaito stuff, and I remember bits and pieces throughout, and then I also remember like they cut that Toonami stopped airing it in that block for me. Like right when like Yusuke was about to like let himself die, like right when they're getting to the climax of the arc, so I never saw the end of this arc until I read it like years later. So yeah, but anyway, it's established that power doesn't work so well in territories, and Hiei Hiei, who's pretty strong, and he immediately gets soul sucked.
Yeah, because he's just like, oh, fine, I'll say the taboo, because what are you gonna do about it? And then yeah,
this, yeah. Also, I like the tweet you made, about the hot. And
oh yeah, yeah, because Kurama's there, so like what? I can't say hot. Oh, I guess I lose. The other thing, like you had talked about translation, so I'm just like curious.
Well, I'm assuming they said like atsui, which is a Japanese word for hot, but I do like how they, if that's the case, then they translate it. Like it works pretty well how they did it. In this manga at least.
Yeah, because I was kind of curious if it was one of those words that like maybe it had like a dual meaning, and maybe I don't know, there was some other, because some of the ways that it is like translated like Kuwabara says shot, but because shot has hot in it, that's what gets him. So that's why I'm like,
right.
I wonder what.
Well, I imagine in the original, like it was like, because I think maybe I don't remember how Funimation did it, but because it was literally years ago when I watched it, but like I thought it was, or at least one character at one point said 2 words, and it was like, I guess it would have been like one word ended in HO and the next word started in T, so that would account, or at least in these rules.
Oh yeah.
Or in Japanese, so like because in Japanese it might have been like one word ends in even in just an ah, and the next one starts in sui, or if that is how they how it originally was. Because I guess what I'm curious about is the alphabet, like because like how did that work? Because Japanese uses a different alphabet. So like
yeah, because like obviously with the manga, like they just redrew the stuff to be the the 26 letter alphabet, the ABCD.
Yes.
So I forget. I'm pretty sure the anime also did the like the ABCD thing.
Right, that's why I'm wondering, because that's what I remember. Like, I especially remember the part at the end where Kurama makes the face, and Kaito, because like in the manga he just like laughs and it's like ha ha, so he said H and it's a banned letter, but in the anime they did like they showed I vividly remember they showed the board, and then he was making a lot of different noises, and like letters were popping up all over the place, like they went even further with it, which was funny. So but I don't but yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, yeah, I guess it would have been the Japanese letters in the original Japanese. I don't know. Because they could have redrawn in the anime. They can do that. See, 4Kids.
Oh no.
They have Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece. They do that.
Imagine if 4Kids had Yu Yu Hakusho. I mean, like. There's already like things where like with One Piece, there's a lot of straining. Well, they didn't even get to some of the more stuff that they would have needed to censor, but like Yu Yu Hakusho would have. Death is kind of a thing in Yu Yu Hakusho.
I'm just trying to think of how they would rename the characters. Oh, let me actually.
Oh, that's right. That reminds me of the Hunter x Hunter. There was a tweet. It was like 4Kids Hunter x Hunter.
Oh God. Ugh. No.
Oh no.
See, this is okay. Yeah, if I said Mirabelle Haywood, you wouldn't know who I'm talking about, would you? But if I said that was Aiko in the English dub of Ojimajo Doremi, you would, wouldn't you?
Oh no! Why? The name is just even longer, and it's just
Mirabelle Haywood.
What?
Hazuki is Rianne Griffith.
They don't even sound like the names.
Doremi is Dory Goodwin, which is actually like, okay, I can kind of see that one.
Why is she the only one that has...
Pop was turned into Caitlyn.
Why?
It's 4 kids. That's why I had to look it up because because I was trying to make up fake ones for what Yu Yu Hakusho would be, kind of like you were bringing up the Hunter x Hunter one, but I'm like, no, this example would cause even more pain because this is what they actually fucking did.
Oh
And
no!
we're also both watching Doremi right now.
So we might as well just call Kuwabara like John or something.
Kenny. I was thinking Kenny because K, but see, actually, I actually do remember when Digimon, because I don't think that was 4 kids, or maybe it was. I don't remember. But I was actually found it interesting how they actually did change the names to kind of be close. Like, Tai was Taichi in the original Japanese, Yamato or Matt and Yamato Matt. Like, it actually kind of makes sense, and I'm like, oh, it's like Takaru, TK. Like, I just go, hey, I don't mind those as much because it's like, I mean, I'm still, if I ever rewatch Digimon, it's gonna be in the original Japanese. But as far as, it's not like fucking like random and just like completely nonsensical like Caitlyn.
Yeah, I don't.
It's Pop. It will always be Pop in my heart. Anyway, I just had to bring that up
at least with
names.
like Pokemon, like Ash Ketchum stuck. It's not Satoshi, but it's I don't know.
Ash. Yeah, that's not very close, but it's also. I mean, maybe I don't know if there were puns in the original Japanese or not. Like, because Ash Ketchum, gotta catch 'em all. So yeah. Funny how that, like, we're gonna be talking about this arc about like humanity being shit and stuff, but the most emotional pain we're gonna have is the 4 kids Doremi names.
And this isn't even the Doremi podcast yet.
Almost. But anyway, I don't remember if there's anything I have to say about the conflict that hasn't already been. Like, okay, I do like how Botan's like, Kuwabara didn't even say hot, and then she's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then Botan, you fucking idiot. She's dumb and good. And then Kurama makes he makes his own rules, and Kaito goes, but they have their competition, and does the dumb face that's apparently amazing even though we don't see it.
The biggest mystery in Yu Yu Hakusho. what was the face that Kurama made?
Yep.
It was too beautiful for our eyes to see. Too beautiful for human eyes, and that's why Kaito died and he was gone forever.
Oh god, I actually have like a headache now from the fucking Doremi shit.
Oh no.
Hopefully it goes away. I just So anyway, they go to the next round. They take the stairs. Botan comes up with a sticker thing, and one of them is replaced.
There's just the cute panel of Hiei just being like, meh, when he has the stickers placed on him.
And then of course, normally he'd belly ache about how stupid he is, but I mean, he just he was the first one out in the last round, so yeah, he's gonna keep his mouth shut this time.
Yeah.
Also, then we get to the so okay, there was one really great moment in this, especially not that there weren't other good moments, but like Yusuke has to like guess which of his friends is the clone, and there's a part where he asks about Kurama's mother, and he's like, yeah, she's getting remarried, and Yusuke's like, invite me, and it's like, he's such a good boy.
Yeah, and then the guy in the background is just like still counting. He's like, you still have, hello, you're on the clock. But yeah, that's a really good one. And then there's the part where he like asks about like Botan's measurements or whatever the translation was.
Saying it, and yes, she's
like, wait, did I say that? Like, she has a moment where, but she's just so dumb, and she's good.
She is dumb, and like she doesn't get like this is. She's mostly there to like be the middleman. Like she did help out with Keiko in the Maze Castle, the Four Beasts stuff. But since then, she's just been kind of around. And this is like, in this arc, she at least gets some stuff in. And this exchange is good because that face she's like mad and she's like, I'm not telling.
Yeah,
she's good. But yeah, I do like how it kind of gets resolved because like the truth is Yusuke doesn't know his friends very well, but he is able to like he does it by like knowing his enemies, So and he
You're right. He's Ichigo. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
Or rather, I should say
'cause I definitely had that
Ichigo is
thought as
Yusuke. It's just a ripoff. All shonen series are the same.
Gasp. Well, yeah, because, like, understanding the enemy through fighting, like, I'm not sure if that's quite as, like, pronounced with Yusuke as it, like, with Ichigo, it's a very, very major thing, but it's definitely an aspect with Yusuke. So, anyway, but yeah.
The start of this
test.
I was gonna say, just like the premise of this like starting conflict is also kind of interesting because it keeps playing into like Yusuke's not wanting other people to not like wanting to like inconvenience or like be a burden on someone else because like he's the one who's kidnapped and he's like, you're using me as bait, and I hate
that's
that.
Right.
So
you're right. I didn't think about that.
That was neat.
But anyway, so he knocks out the copycat and turns out it was Genkai the whole time. So like right away I was like, okay, Genkai does do something after coming back to life.
Yeah. Not much,
anyway,
but she does something.
And then and she explains herself that spooky shit is happening with gateways to the demon world.
I also think that like her little like dialogue here I think is kind of interesting. And I guess it's just sort of what Chapter Black kind of is in relation to the Dark Tournament, because like Dark Tournament is all about like fighting and raw power, and that was like that was Togoro's deal. He needed someone to match his power, and so he was doing whatever he could to draw out Yusuke's power. But this time, Genkai teaches this lesson that it's not all just about raw strength. Like even if you could defeat all three of these guys, with just raw power. They were able to, trick him and use like tactics and stuff and be smart boy shenanigans to.
Yes, and abilities that just like completely negated their power, basically, like Kaito especially, or at least their physical power, because you could say Kurama's mental power, won out the day, because he's a smarty boy. But anyway, they the stakes are introduced where if Elder Togoro's or not Elder Toguro, why did I say Elder Toguro? He's involved, but it's fucking Sakyo who's his will to have a plane or a portal opened is somehow coming to fruition. They got to find out who done it and stop the whole fucking world from getting destroyed. And then we do cut away to Elder Toguro and Sensui being introduced. Also I thought it was I guess it's technically Hunter x Hunter spoilers for Beyond the Manga, so I'm not going to be very specific.
Beyond the manga?
Beyond the manga.
Kraftsdorf has seen Togashi's storyboards.
I have seen the future. It was Beyond the Anime. So how far did you read again? I forget.
I think I read up to the fight. And that was
the fight.
Kind of
okay.
weird.
So this what I'm thinking of might have happened after, but so I'm just gonna be very vague, so people in the comments who've read more of the manga would know. But like when they introduce like the demon levels and put the like already established threat at B, that kind of reminds me of something that happens in Hunter x Hunter. Or Toguro was he's like, oh, he's a B, or he was like a B class demon, and but there's also A and S.
But that's just the shonen thing. It's always got to be higher stakes. So we're not at the peak. So Yusuke feels like he's at the peak of his abilities, but no, there's always another threat. And there are moments later that kind of, that reminded me of like the Super Eye Patch Wolf video on Yu Yu Hakusho, where he kind of talked about sort of like the meta aspect of that, in how.
Yeah,
like Togashi has to keep creating this story where the stakes keep getting higher, and on top of his health issues and whatever. So like the protagonist, and again, it's like I don't know Togashi's headspace, so I don't know if that's actually true, but it's an interesting thing to read into. That like Yusuke's frustrations in this arc, and the feeling. Like, we just had this big thing, and I've reached the peak of my power, but the story's got to keep going. There's got to be more conflicts. It's interesting. Yu Yu Hakusho was a deconstruction of shonen all along?
And we thought Hunter x Hunter was going to be the deconstruction. Well, we didn't, but you know what I mean.
Although I do really like this arc, I don't know if I should really say that, like, I don't know if I'd say that this is a deconstruction of Yu Yu Hakusho in this very arc, but it, like, definitely does kind of flip a lot of
Yes.
the, like, what the focal points were of the series kind of get flipped, and, like, just the way Yusuke's character gets explored. It's neat.
Yes. Well, like one thing I'll mention why I think it's interesting in another capacity later, but they specifically mentioned that like the abilities of these guys, like they accent their own strengths while putting down the strengths of the other characters. You know, the main characters especially. So it's like so it's able to actually in a way you can maybe compare it to, it's like almost an inverse of One Piece, where how One Piece starts is like you have these antagonists who like they or and I mean part of it is also the characters being stupid, but like the characters aren't necessarily fighting at their full capacity. Like Sanji versus Karubi, he's underwater against a fish man. Like once they get on land, he just fucking destroys him. So it's like I guess kind of an inverse where it's like with and then later on in the story they're finally being like pressed to their limits. Like where in this case they've been pressed to their limits, they've been growing, and now that they're at their quote unquote peaks, they're being pushed down again to maintain that tension. It's good.
Yeah.
But anyway, they go to Swarm Town. They got to find the mastermind, and they run into the boxer guy who has mind reading capabilities. I mean, we kind of already talked about it because Yusuke comes up with a way to take them down, which is good.
Yeah, it is in that sense that's also kind of neat because that's sort of an example where the raw power does beat the tactics, because the guy, he's like, oh, I can read your mind, I know you're gonna throw whatever punch, and Yusuke's like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw this punch, but he just is so fast that he throws it and the guy doesn't have the speed to dodge. So him being able to predict the future by reading minds doesn't mean that he can actually, doesn't make him invincible.
Yes. It just requires some cleverness. Like, yeah, it is strength, but it's also the cleverness. So
yeah.
But anyway, they take him to try and find the mastermind with his mind reading powers. He finds oh god. So I think it was someone on my server. I can't remember. There's several people reading Yu Yu Hakusho have already read it. I don't want to even. I don't remember who it was, but like they pointed out that like if Togashi really loved drawing Toguro, with Sensui he really liked drawing him to be as creepy as fucking possible. So because like the faces this dude makes he's a spooky. Sensui's fucking spooky.
Yeah.
Like we get the part where he's like sees the thoughts of like, oh, kill everyone, women, children, and then he just spooky face, and then before he gets hit by sniper.
Although unfortunately, this is the arc where like later on, especially, the art kind of starts to decline, because I mean, Togashi's health issues, and like there were even some more afterwards where he's like, or not afterwards, but like the pre-volume comments where he has one where it's like a conversation with his editor where he's like, how many more hours do you think it'll take? So you need another whole day, pretty much. Any later than 8 a.m. tomorrow and we're sung. And it's like, so basically, like, he's right up against the deadlines.
Yes. Well, because I've read he did a whole essay of, like, why he ended Yu Yu Hakusho, and, like, one thing he specifically mentioned was, like, well, because last time you were mentioned, like, why did Jump give him color chapters? Are they trying to kill him? And the answer was yes, because, like, specifically the Yusuke versus Chu fight was where his, like, stress levels were possibly at their highest. And specifically, I think he even, like, one of his ways to alleviate stress was to draw literally everything himself, like do chapters without assistance at all. And apparently Yusuke, one of the Yusuke versus, at least one of them was the Yusuke versus Sensui chapters, was when he was one of those times where, but it's also like, it alleviated his stress in one way, but he was also like working right up to the deadline because he was not having any other help. So, and it's like, yeah, the art was sloppy, the backgrounds weren't very good, like, but it was also so it's like he's putting out unsatisfactory work, but he's also like relieving his own stress, which was part of his issue with this series, because it's like he literally can't, like, in order to do the things he likes, like games or something, like he has to cut out sleep time. If he was only like getting maybe like he had like one half a day off a week, and that was where he'd catch up on sleep, and throughout the rest of the week he'd like nap a little bit, like manga production is really rough. Like, I don't blame Togashi at all for taking the breaks he does. Like, yeah, I want to see the end of Hunter x Hunter, but, like, not at Togashi's expense. Like, and yeah, other manga authors are just, like, you know, more suited for fucking Mashima. The dude has 2.5 series running right now. Weekly series. How is he even real? Like, because he just started Heroes, which is a crossover thing between Rave, Fairy Tail, and Eden Zero. Eden Zero is still going. He's drawing and writing both of those, and he's also writing Fairy Tail Century Quest, which is being drawn by someone else. So, absolute fucking madman.
The Mashima arc of the Nensho podcast will never end.
Yeah, like, Mashima's art, I mean, it's consistent, but I wouldn't say, like, even his best stuff is close to Togashi's best, but, like, you can put out a manga, I guess. Like, he's just, like, and again, like, this is after he's already done, like, almost, like, 100 collected volumes of other series. Like, absolute madman.
It does make me kind of wonder, because, like, I do think Sensui is, like, a big, you know, he's one of the characters who takes, like, the biggest hit from the arc, because, like, this is his main arc. And so, like, compared to, like, Togoro's final form, where there's, like, all this detail on, like, the muscles and the veins and all the bones sticking out and stuff, it was,
yeah.
But then, like, compared to Sensui, like, when he gets his armor thing, it's just, like, it's white. I mean, like, the anime, it's you know, the anime has color and stuff to do more with it. But it would have been interesting to see, like, what, I don't know, like,
what he might have drawn if he didn't have, like, his body to worry about.
Yeah.
So where he's doing simpler, because yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, and then he also has, like, the holy energy thing, which is just an aura, not super difficult to draw compared to fucking Togoro's, like, hyper detailed musculature and shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting to consider. Though I'll definitely bring up a couple panels I noticed as, like, the art. Because there's, like, I guess I'll bring it up now, because there's one panel in the doctor chapters where the doctor has the nurse who turns out to be the copy guy. Like, he's got a knife to her throat as a hostage. And, like, there's one big panel with he's talking and he's got her. And then the next panel is, like, very clearly, like, zoomed in on that same panel, but with text bubbles over it. So, like, he didn't technically draw anything new for this, for that page, except just the one panel, and then he drew the second panel is just the parts of the first panel. So I just noticed, like, shortcuts like that, you know, already kind of happening at this point stage, compared to the shortcuts currently in Hunter x Hunter, where he literally just has panels with only text and no imagery at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, just the kind of, like, issues, you know, or not issues, but aspects of that were always in Yu Yu Hakusho being, you know, exacerbated or exacerbated. I don't words. I'm sorry. I've never been words. Yeah, just something I noticed. But anyway, yeah, they talk about Sniper a bit, and from the mind reading, they found out that they have 7 enemies: Sensui, Itsuki, Seaman, Gourmet, Doctor, Sniper, and Game Master. But yeah, they go to the hospital and run into the doctor basically immediately.
But then the doctor is the enemy. Dun dun dun.
Yes, exactly.
There was a specific, like, one of the dialogue, or not dialogue boxes, the info boxes, where it's like the name, his ability, the stuff. There was, like, a Viz translation where they talk about his aura or Nen, and I was like,
so I wanted to bring
did
that
they
up,
know
actually.
about
What
Hunter?
did you think? Yeah.
See, because I didn't know if that was meant to be, like, was it some sort of reference, or was it just a word that they happened to use, and like, it just happened to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, later they mentioned, like, the sniper has ki, and so I wanted to bring that up specifically because, unfortunately, I don't have a link to the posts because they were on Oro Jackson, a One Piece fan site that has been closed down. You cannot go to this website anymore, but this is where I read these posts. Because the posts were about hockey, and it was talking about, because, like, the thing, and they mentioned it as an aside, but basically, like, hockey, Nen, a lot of these, like, concepts we, like, almost fantastical concepts we see in shonen manga are actually just, like, real ideas being, like, taken to, you know, an over the top extreme. So, like, how I heard hockey described was that it was, like, say you have, like, a big pro wrestler guy, you know, big and muscular and stuff, and he's just, like, chilling, maybe he's hanging with his kids and stuff, like, you can imagine him being, like, approachable, to it, he even, but then when he gets mad, when he gets in character, he suddenly has, he's suddenly like more, it's more intense, right? Like that's Haki. It's basically like an intimidating aura, so to speak. That like it's a real thing, like it's a real idea of like a presence, but not necessarily. But with One Piece, it's turned into something so hyper real that it's like super over the top, where it's like Conqueror's Haki. Your presence is so strong it literally knocks out they pass out from the intensity of it. So with Nen, it's I think I looked it up and there's a few. I'm actually kind of curious. I'd love to see a write-up like this for Nen because it means it can mean a few different things like sense, idea, thought, desire, concern, or feelings. So because like I was kind of thinking about it and like because spirit power is emotions, but Nen is like thoughts and desires. And like if you think about Hunter x Hunter, like thoughts, like the characters design their own powers, and also desire is a major theme of Hunter x Hunter. So it's like. That would be something I'd be curious to see like a more thorough like write up on the word like I did with Haki. I wish I could link the Haki one, but like I said, the posts were apparently from Arlong Park but rewritten. I don't have a link to the original ones because Arlong Park is still up, but yeah, so I'm sorry, but yeah, it's not as like yeah, it's the same word. But like by using the original Japanese word, it kind of gives it like a fantastical context to it, like that makes it seem more foreign or alien or magical when it's really something that actually exists in just like, or at least as an idea, even if it is a spiritual one, but it's still like, the way I just explained Haki, like it's just like someone getting mad and being more intimidating than normal, like so. Like that's something that I can just like there's a very difference in approaching someone who's like just chilled and out and approaching someone who's angry. So it's like and it's interesting that they have like a very specific word for that, or at least again how I saw it written. So,
and I wasn't entirely sure if like because I think I don't know if it just started in this arc or if it was just kind of an inconsistency that at least like the Viz translation had where like, I believe the term was, like, Reiki, but they would keep... Like, sometimes they call it aura, sometimes it was referred to as, like,
yes.
Chi. This one panel, they even called it, like, Nen. So, I don't know if that... If they're, like, so if they were meant to...
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if they were meant to be, like, different things, and that's why they chose different words, or...
Because that's what I'd assume. Cool, because, like, later on we have, like, Reiki, which is, like, spirit energy, then Yoki, which is, like, demon energy... because when Yusuke is heading to the demon, when he unlocks his demon, heritage, he has a lot of Yoki, and then Sensui has the holy energy. I forget what it was called, but so there's like there are different types of energy, but it's again, it's like it's a translation thing to consider, and like like I said, we know what spirit energy is, what ghost energy. It's emotional power, but or at least in the context of the story, I don't know, because. Like the post about Haki also talked about ha-ki, like ki is the kind of the root word there, and that's something a lot of people are familiar with, like from Dragon Ball and wuxia shit, the words, and they talked about some other ones, like with that same kuki is like air kind of like atmosphere. So I don't know, like it was an interesting read that I can't show anyone else right now because I don't have like an easy link to it, and I don't know where to find it on Arlong Park. So. Language, cultural context, it's hard. But anyway, what did you think about the sort of doctor battle, so to speak? Like, because there was the first part with finding the doctor, and then the actual fighting him. What did you think about the conflict overall?
So overall, I guess it was like he was a good introduction to what like Sensui's minions would be, because his conflict is, I guess he's a bit different compared to some of the other ones because like one kid is like he was bullied or whatever, and so like
yes, like he's pretty like kind of full into Sensui's like ideals, where he's like humans, like he's a doctor, he's someone who's supposed to help people, but he's like humans suck.
Because like so it's this guy seems like like the other one. Seemingly, it's more just like innocence or ignorance or whatever it might be that they don't have the perspective. Whereas this guy, he seems like he has that. I don't know. Like it's not like an innocence or an ignorance with him. Like he's very, what's the word?
About it, which yeah.
There's a word for it, like being hating humanity, but I forget the word.
Misanthrope?
Yes, he's very like misanthropic.
Yes.
Which
and yeah, like that is a good point that he's there because he establishes the territories and like because he has a more variety of powers compared to the three kids or Genkai's team. I don't know what to call them specifically. And yeah, he does like by matching Sensui's ideals, he's able to like give us a bit like we don't know why like because he feels a different Sensui is more self-righteous, I'd say. Like this guy's just a fucking jackass. Though considering how it like his character like where his character goes after in the epilogue bit for this arc, I don't know, we'll talk about that.
But yeah, overall I think it's it's an interesting conflict we got here because you've got there's some sort of like strategy. Well, first there's a mystery of like which one's the doctor, but then the guy with his shadow is able to like the cool power mechanics and stuff.
Yes.
Because when Yusuke was like, I'm gonna go look for the guy, so he like maxes out like his spirit energy or whatever to like keep Yusuke in place despite the fact that he's like paralyzed and
and he's able to like
that's the way of communicating the message.
Yusuke off that he's there, and then the doctor is like, well shit, and he starts fucking going killer on people. And
so there are a couple different layers to this fight. Like, there's the actual fighting part. Well, there's the mystery beforehand, then there's the actual fighting where he has like all these modifications to his body, so he like doesn't feel pain, and so he just kind of keeps fighting
hostages and shit, and then
and
Yusuke punches the fuck out of him, and he thinks he's killed him for a second, like he's kind of like, oh, I had no choice to kill him, but he turned out not to have been dead, and Genkai even says like, he's not worth like being agonizing over his death kind of thing, which I hadn't thought about before, but I just kind of realized like. Genkai has like this idea that maybe shitty people are better off. Maybe it's not too bad that they're dead, which is like a much less extreme version of Sensui, who's like thinks, well, all shitty humans are shitty, therefore they all should be dead. So that was just something I realized I thought of just now.
Yeah, like this is definitely it's a big character moment in the arc for Yusuke because there's sort of like the lamenting over taking a human life or whatever, but he. Not that he, like, does that, but I think, like, Genkai's reasoning was, like, I don't want that weighing on your mind or whatever. Like, he's not worth it.
Right. Like, not this human, of all of them. Like, why lament that you killed this guy? The worst, or not the he's just a piece of shit.
Because, like, that is relevant to sort of what especially, like, with the conflict with demons that, I think comes up a little more later, not in this arc, but the next one, where, like, here Yusuke is, he doesn't, like, hesitate. Like, he would have been fine killing this guy, like, that was his plan, but there is a hesitation that, like, he shouldn't, like Genkai didn't want him to do that because that would have affected him in some way, which is kind of, to like, compare it to the demons, like, I guess technically Yusuke didn't really. Did he kill any of the demons? It was mostly
he killed Goki. He killed Goki in like the first arc. But that was like he was literally eating the souls of children. So
okay, but not in the Dark Tournament. That was mostly his teammates doing that.
Yeah, I don't know because like Yusuke's fights were against like Chu and Jin, so people he didn't kill. Like I'm trying to remember. I don't think. The scientist he didn't kill, I don't think. That was the who killed the scientist? Or maybe he did kill the scientist. I don't remember. Fuck.
So mainly it's just like the shitty demons that he if he was ever in that position.
It's a shitty human that he was prepared to kill, like he's like your life ends now, or maybe that's a visism, I don't know, I didn't check.
Which it is sort of and again, like I think it comes up again later. Like I think this is it's an important thing, and I think it's somehow relevant to what happens later. Because like there is in a way kind of a double standard there, you could say, because like, oh, he'll kill a shitty demon, but I mean, not exactly, because he was willing to do it. But there is sort of the hesitation there, and I think that gets called out later, but I'm not 100% sure.
I do not recall myself.
Or maybe it was more of just like an anime thing that like made it feel
Possibly.
more like add more gravitas to it. I'm not sure, but also in regards to this fight, as far as the anime is concerned, this was one of the Shinbo episodes, so it was super trippy, and it was amazing.
Oh, with the hospital stuff? Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of like weird colors and stuff. Is Shimbo? He's good. His storyboards are good.
But reading Kamiya was the name of the doctor. His stuff from after the fighting, he talks about how like, you know, he wants all of humanity to die, including himself. So he's also kind of got like the self like loathing that a lot of these antagonists share. But it's definitely the most similar to Sensui compared to the other ones.
Yeah. So which I think that does kind of make him a good introduction, because it is more of a general, all humanity is bad. Whereas like then we start getting into more, so it kind of like we get more into like the, I don't know if I don't want to say it. I'm trying to think like nuance is the word I keep thinking of. Like with the other characters who come up later.
Math whiz.
Well, like with the other characters that come
no,
up.
I'm sorry. I just thought of a bad joke because I just realized you're afraid of saying the N-word.
Oh no!
Nuance, not that N-word. It just sounds out of context. It sounds funny.
But yeah, like with the other characters, like I guess it would be that their views are less nuanced, but that makes it like exploring their characterization more nuanced, because like the one kid is literally a child, so like of course he wouldn't. It's easier like when you're younger to jump to those conclusions, but it's also easier for those conclusions to fall apart because you have less experience backing them up.
I definitely have some things to say about Mitsurai and the gamer kid whose name is
Amanuma.
No, yes, that was it. Because like I do think it's super. I think that honestly, Mitsurai is probably like my third favorite, like or like my second favorite like Chapter Black character after Sensui. Because there were some parts that hit me in the fucking emotions a little bit. Not like I don't think I cried or teary-eyed or anything, but I was like, ooh.
It's very good conflict, and the characters are good. But
it's,
like by having this character not be as, I guess, simple as the others, it does drive home like the narcissism and like the misanthropy.
I don't know how I don't know words. Nathlis don't
but
have
me. But you know, like the whole like anti-humanity stuff, like the fact that he is the first one who shows up, and it's not so easy to just like poke holes in his perspective.
Well, because like right now they don't really have like, we haven't heard, like we saw Sensui's thoughts, or well, not really. You know, there's like 7 Sensuis as we later find out. But I think that, I forget, I'm assuming that's the, like, murder one who had, like, the gun hand or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we don't even see all of them. So I don't even know, why did he give him 7? Well, I guess, oh yeah, that's right, they gave 7 for, the plot twist reveal where it's like, oh, he's working with 7 people. It's, these guys, like Seaman and Doctor. No, it's Sensui is 7 people.
I do think that that's interesting, that, like, he has 7, like, distinct identities, like, you know, just kind of, like, existing in his head or whatever. And it's sort of interesting. I wouldn't be the person to like really delve into that whole subject, but it is kind of interesting how that is incorporated later. Like it's not a major twist for the story of the arc, but it's just like an interesting detail, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not too sure about it, but it's there. It's kind of oh god, I'm getting to the part where fucking like literally humanity, like they found out where the location of the bad guys is, and Kuwabara is like, but metal concert, and I'm like,
yeah,
bro, are you serious?
See, I thought I had kind
of the fate of the world is on the line, and you want to go see metal.
I wasn't sure, like, if that was like just playing it straight. That was literally his reason, or if it was more like, you know, his aura was gone, and so like I kind of read a little more into it.
That's fair.
Which
he can't really do a whole lot. I mean, they're also doing conflicts that aren't necessarily strength based.
Yeah.
So it's not like he would have been useless, but I guess it does make sense that he doesn't want to be a burden either. So
so that was kind of why, like, because otherwise it does seem weird for him to be so adamant about not helping and going to goof off, because that's not who Kuwabara is. Like, we know that Kuwabara can, like, fight with Yusuke and stuff, but he's not someone who will just bail.
I don't think I definitely like that idea, but also, like, I'm scrolling through, and he's also, like, he's with his friends, and he's, like, he's doing, like, kind of the thing that was brought up in, like, that you mentioned it before, the Super Perpetual video, where he's like, it's been nothing but fight, fight, fight. What's the harm in kicking back for you? Like, he just wants to fucking relax a little bit, I guess, in that panel at least. But maybe he's also not being honest with himself. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, it could be more just me, like, reading into it. Like, maybe it was just supposed to be read straight. But
yeah, because I like that idea, your idea, but also I'm not sure if there's enough context in at least the manga. Maybe the anime adds more to support that, because I don't know. Well, because you also reminded me of just a general thing from one of the interviews. I think Togashi, the Japanese voice actor for Kuwabara, like, Togashi actually said something. He said something along the lines of, like, this, he understands the character better than me, which I thought was interesting, because a lot of people see the author as, like, the god of their story who knows everything and such, but that's kind of ignorant of the subconscious aspects that go into writing. And, like, because I was talking about it with Vindy, because I do the Monster Hunter streams where we talk about a lot and stuff, because, like, the author probably knows the most about their work, but they don't know everything about their work, because they can't possibly read in, like, they're not a reader, they're a writer. They're coming at it from a completely different perspective. And as someone who's written, I know very much, like, how, in some ways, that, yes, the subconscious is pretty important to writing, so it's kind of interesting. Here's Kuwabara, so I just kind of had that thought about, like, Togashi doesn't necessarily understand Kuwabara the best out of everyone in the world, and that's always interesting to consider. Because, again, people like to hype up the creator, especially Togashi, like, he's literally the one who gets the meme name, and I'm just like, okay, sure, like the author you like, I guess. I don't know. I don't even call it Oda. I don't even like the it doesn't even work, because they're two different O sounds. Oda, it doesn't work. But I don't even like that one. So whatever.
And, like, that does bring that is sort of, it relates to, like, some thoughts I've had with Togashi, where, like, I think it was, like, in response to when I had made, like, my Hunter x Hunter video about, like, how all the arcs, like, connect to each other really well, and how certain aspects are, like, set up well in advance. But even then, and it applies to Yu Yu Hakusho too, which is Yu Yu Hakusho is more arc by arc. And even though some things do overlap, like, maybe I even mentioned this earlier in one of our other podcasts, but, like, Togashi seems to be good, even if there are certain things he might plan in advance, he seems to be good at, like, building off of what he's established, or, like, leaving things vague in a way. He can be good at writing on the fly, and, like, turning something that might not have been important before, making it more, or, like, flipping it on its head or something that was pre-established.
Yeah, especially in Hunter x Hunter. Which we'll get to. We're almost there. We're a month out away from discussing that, I think. So that's neat.
Hype.
Yeah. So anyway, Kuwabara gets attacked by Mitsurai, who's, like, he's going after the one who separates himself from the others. And he's also said that he's been following Kuwabara specifically. He has powers that the bad guys like to brag about their powers. I mean, that's just a shonen thing. I'm used to it.
But, like, especially I think with this character, and I mean, like, I'm sure other characters, like, yes, they do the boasting because it's more of just, like, they're trying to convince themselves in a way. Like, Mitsurai is very unsure of himself.
Especially, like, the doctor, not so much. He's just an asshole, so I'm not sure about that. But Mitsurai is definitely like, yeah, I'm strong. I'm,
Well, no, I meant more sense. Like, I wasn't very specific. I meant more just, like, the shonen characters who boast about stuff in general. Like, there are probably others. I didn't mean, like, Yu Yu Hakusho specifically.
Oh, never mind. Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
But yeah, I was pretty vague on that. But yeah, like, with this character specifically, because we see he's very unsure of himself, and like once he gets defeated, and he's like, "Why would you do this for me?" and whatever.
Yes.
So it's definitely
like, how, like the actual fight. I don't know. I'm reading it right now. Like, it's good. Kuwabara is good. But I also like the like I'm reading through right now, and again, maybe it's a visism. Like, I hate that I have to like underpin everything I say with that when on these volumes. But like or maybe wait, I thought I lost my thought. Never mind. Oh no, that was it. Because he's like, he thinks Kuwabara is a coward. Like, he's trying to like, yeah, you're a coward, right? And I wonder if maybe it's like, because a running thing with a lot of these antagonists is that they're like, especially Sensui, where it's like, Sensui thinks humanity is shit, he is human, and therefore that kind of gives him an excuse to be whatever piece of, like, because he's like a fucking, probably the worst, evilest character in this arc. Like, the thing with Mitsurai and Amanuma, and specifically, he's basically grooming children to fill his purposes. You know?
Like he had pretty specific plans. Like for Mitsurai, he needed him to fight Kuwabara so that Kuwabara could awaken the sword that would open the hole to the demon world. So it was very calculated.
Yes. So it's like, right. So, and then of course with Amanuma, he's like, yeah, he literally, like, he suggested the game that would leave Amanuma dead, but also give him the most time to let his schemes happen. So it's like, he's literally grooming children with his ideals as sacrificial pawns for his goals. So he's basically doing like an incredibly awful thing, but it's justified because he's humans. Humans are shit. Like, you know, and this is kind of similar in that you have Mitsurai sort of like seeing what like himself in other humans, and like he's trying to, like, he's kind of a coward and like afraid of things, and you know, he's got his own issues and stuff, so he's trying to like justify that, like, yeah, other humans are like that too, but unfortunately Kuwabara is not like that. He's just projecting, which I think is what the same case with Sensui. He's just projecting like his own shittiness in a sense, not necessarily from the beginning, but like at this point. I don't know, there's more to talk about with Sensui too, so maybe that's a bit reductive, but it's just an idea.
Well, yeah, because there is, as far as like the Amanuma thing, there was a part where like Koenma makes a comment about, you know, how like he was able to restore him or whatever, and Sensui's like, oh yes, just as I planned, because then it would make you use your aura, so you couldn't use the thing or whatever.
Yes, I fucked up last time because I misremembered how his Binky thing worked, because last time I was like, oh yeah, Koenma takes off his Binky and everyone dies. So I was like, I was kind of like alluding to what he can do with that, but I also was misremembering what it does, because I mentioned the popularity poll. So I'm like, yeah, he takes off his Binky and everyone dies. So, but then I realized that was a spoiler, so I like kind of covered myself. But then rereading it, I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not how it works. So just never mind. But anyway, Mitsurai starts drowning the friends, and Kuwabara, like, he kind of has a bit of a, like, Yusuke moment where he's like, you know, it's fine if I die, but not my friends, kind of, like, and then he gets his power up with his dimension cutting sword, that he doesn't, like, he's only here for this arc, and he's like, he's not in the Three Kings at all, so I'm just like very sad.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, because there are some characters who returned for Three Kings.
This is like Fullbring. Kuwabara is like Chad. He kind of is here in this arc, and then nothing. I
don't know. Oh no. Yeah, in Dark Tournament he was just the comedy jobber for most of it.
Yeah. Basically.
Although I guess Chad wasn't for comedy. Anyways, I'm reading too much into a joke.
I read into everything, Matthews. Don't you know by now? Anyway, but yeah, Kuwabara grabs everyone, including Mitsurai, so yeah, he starts to explain like his. They go back to the room, and Mitsurai starts explaining why. You know, he's like, yeah, humans deserve to die. And then Chapter Black. We finally get the name drop of the chapter. Well, it's called the Black Chapter in Views because they're stupid.
Well, no, I think that was like actually in the fan translation. I think it was also the Black Chapter.
Well, they're also stupid. No, I'm kidding. It sounds. I just think Chapter Black sounds better.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just like a manga anime difference. I mean, like it. You know,
is that what Funimation calls it? Chapter Black, or
yeah, because like when I look up the Wikipedia page, it's a Chapter Black.
Yeah. I mean, it does roll off the tongue better as an arc name than the Black Chapter because, like, I don't know. That, at least in my mind, even though I'm fine either way. I just do like Chapter Black a little better.
No, yeah, I do think it just sounds better.
Yeah. Sounds, maybe it's because it sounds more ominous, like Chapter Black, like it, and maybe it's got a little bit of that sort of like Japanese awkwardness you sometimes get with English, even though it's just in English. Like it's probably like Koro something whatever in the original Japanese, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. Well, okay, that's just fact. But yeah, it's a tape. It's basically the dark web on a VHS tape. See, this is a kind of interesting thing because because it would have gone in the 90s where it's like stuff like this isn't just easy to find because nowadays we have the internet and like I was on 4chan for a lot of my early internet life, like in 2007 to like early 2010s, and like I saw not shit necessarily as bad as being described, but like I've seen shit, So what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say like even nowadays there's stuff like the Hong Kong protests, and I think there's stuff going on in like Chile, and like there are occasions where like I'll see a video, not something like graphic or violent, but violent, but maybe not super graphic, but like even just on like Twitter there will be like stuff that kind of like circulates around, so it's like it can
social
be
media site,
right. So it can be easy to find that stuff nowadays.
Yeah, especially right. So it is kind of interesting, like looking back and think, because that's Mitra is basically this kid who saw like a bad video on the internet and just kind of felt like complete shit about it, and I've had that feel. Like I do recognize that feeling, though. Obviously, like Mitra is also being groomed by an absolute piece of shit. So,
yeah.
Like when he just breaks down, like, oh no, I'm looking at his crying face, where he's just like, he just has PTSD from this video, like, he's just having nightmares, and he wants, like, he feels responsible because, oh, he's human, just like all the people, who are doing these things, but, the people who are victims are also humans,
Yeah.
I mean, what turned Sensui was the victims being demons, but, I don't know. It is rough.
I mean, and it is like an interesting thing because I don't know if it's like not quite like survivor's guilt or I think similar to like race stuff, and there will be people talk about like white guilt or whatever, where it's like you might not necessarily be directly responsible, but like because there's some sort of connection,
yes, being part of the collective that is quote unquote responsible, so there's like and that's kind of the issue, is where's the accountability, and like the answer, fucking what's the name of the sniper? I had he starts with an H. I wrote it down. Hagiri. Yeah, like, because that's what he sort of like the answer he kind of comes to, because he like goes after individuals, like that's the thing, he, like, there's a kind of collectivism, individualism thing, because like, yeah, as a collective, like, humanity is capable of great evils, but Kurama even points out like that, that's not the whole picture, like, it's a very biased story, and as we see, like, the main characters are better than that, they're not perfect, but they're better. And there's some other things to consider too, as I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Spirit World needs to get some sort of like tape circulating called the White Chapter, where it's just all the the good
things. Yeah, it's wholesome. It's basically like soldiers coming home and getting hugs from their family, and I don't know what is White Chapter. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Wholesome memes is basically Chapter White, but I don't know. As the joke I'm trying to make here, but no, it's definitely interesting, and yeah, like that is a good point of it's something that people can connect to, of just like feeling accountable for things you didn't do, but yeah, like I said, Hagiri, like there was the teenagers who like killed a cat or something like that, and he goes to deal with them, like them, not humanity in general, like these people are wrong, so he's acting as kind of like a fist of justice, kind of, in a sense, so yeah. Like this part hit me a bit. Mitra is a sad boy, but he's a good boy. He's better. Like the fact that he even feels bad about this in general. Like he's obviously not as bad as the people, as who he feels accountable for, the people doing this awful shit.
Yeah, and like I think back to Amanuma again, because like comparing him to Amanuma, like Amanuma doesn't get that guilt because he's just a kid, does not have that perspective. Whereas this,
he doesn't have the capacity to really understand a lot of this. Like, he barely even understands death. He just knows that he doesn't want to die, and then we'll get to that.
But then, so yeah, with Mitarai, it's more like, he's an adolescent too, so it's just like it would already be like a point where the world sort of is like opening up, and there's a lot to take in, and so when you take in a lot of negativity,
because like Kuwabara's thing about how it is like it's not the whole picture is like, I mean, that's kind of my thought. Like, cause see, here I was thinking that I was gonna like shit on Chapter Black's examination of the cynicism idealism thing, and get a chance to hype up my Jetman video because like, but no, I actually really like this exploration. So I'm like, damn it. But I do like how the conflict is, because that's the other thing, is it was around the same time, because Jetman started in 91 and ended in 92, and then a little bit later you got Chapter Black. So I don't know, both are good. Watch Jetman, it's free on Shot Factory TV. Then watch my video. Gotta plug myself. But yeah, because I guess my sort of, like, because I remember thinking about it specifically, I don't even know if I want to mention the name, but there was a piece of shit furry who did something horrible. And I remember just thinking, like, yeah, I could focus on this and try and think of a group as bad based on the actions of an individual, or I could just realize that, like, you could do that with anything. Like, why not? You could also, like, good and bad both exist. Why focus on one? I think I heard Iroh had a good line about, like, focusing on shadows in Legend of Korra, but I haven't seen Korra. So, like, I don't know. Or look at the light instead of the shadows. I don't remember. But, that just matches my kind of feelings on the subject. We're getting Sensui's backstory a bit from Koenma, where he was that's the thing, is he was kind of like Mitarai, where he was just this kid who was suddenly exposed to more, or wait, are we getting the backstory? Yes, we are a little bit.
Yeah, because he's like he was a different kind of simple, like, in comparison to Yusuke, where Yusuke was more like morally gray. Whereas Sensui was very... I thought it
was interesting because it, like, retroactively explained why Yusuke was chosen for his position. Like, why... I mean, not, like, ultimately he is a good person, but there's more ambiguity and, he can also be a piece of shit in some ways, like, even if it's just with his harassment of Keiko. Whereas Sensui was, like, a very noble person, like, extremely noble, but that also kind of, like... went sour when he got too much perspective, and he completely flipped, so it's interesting that, like, they deliberately chose someone who wasn't so extreme, from the beginning of the series, like, I don't know if this was something that was planned, but it's a good retroactive, like, connection.
Yeah, that's a good example of, like, what I was talking about earlier, where it might not have been planned, but it works really well.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense. Or with what you were saying earlier. But yeah, he believed demons were completely bad. We later see his kind of, it started to open up a bit when he, like, found, like, he beat up Itsuki, and Itsuki mentioned, like, oh yeah, that TV show, shame I don't get to see more of it, and that, like, it humanized demons for Sensui, and then, because that definitely happened before this, because, they're partners at this point, so it's like, he's already, like, having the cracks form, because he's like, oh, demons should be, exterminated, but, here he is working with a demon when he goes in to see the fucking torture, brutal page of the torture chamber with all the demons and the humans, like, literally bathing in the blood, like, ooh. And, yeah, it broke him. And, like, the fucking line where it's like, nope, no humans here, Itsuki, it's just, ooh.
Yeah. that one page, too, was also, like, Viz had a weird way of, like, censoring it, but not censoring it. Like,
see, that's the thing. Wait, how is it censored, actually? Because it looks pretty brutal as
well, yeah, because I know, like, they took out some of the, like, the stabbing words, weapons. There we go. Okay. They edited out some of the weapons, and then they also made sure that, like, the characters had, like, underwear or something, because, like, that was the thing they focused on. Not, like, the blood and the everything. They gotta have clothes.
That's America is so hilarious about that, where it's like, oh my god, a nipple, and then but then like what you as someone pointed out, like a Marvel comic where you could just like a kid could just buy it, where it's got the character called the Sentry like literally ripping a man in half with tons of blood and gore. A Marvel comic, by the way, not like the so, but no nipples. Can't have any nipples, or can't have your horrific human pieces of shit torturers naked. They have to be wearing underwear.
I also, it just seems like, as far as like taking the weapons out too, it almost seems like wasted effort, because like the wounds are still there. Why?
Yeah. Oh, see, my hat, they do have some of the like they have the spears. I don't know what other weapons they were supposed to have. Maybe they have like knives or something in the original. I haven't seen. I should look at it honestly, because I only saw the Viz version.
If I remember the chapter number, I would just.
Yeah, that's it annoys me with the Viz version, because like they're only numbered in the table of contents. They're not numbered when you like if you go to the chapter page, it just has the name of the chapter, so I just can't look. But anyway, but yeah, Koenma points out that Sensui has such a strong sense of justice. He believes that no evil should go unpunished, and now all humanity is evil, including himself. But anyway, since after the exposition dump, Sensui tries to, Sniper tries to kill Mitsurai, and everyone, well, kind of, but they don't even hesitate in trying to save him, even though he's an enemy. Oh yeah, then we kind of get the first round of Sensui versus Yusuke. Sensui explains that the portals will be ready in 2 days, and Sensui proves to be I'm basically you but better in every way, because he's the former spirit detective, so he's just like uses his aura lightning kickboxing, and he's just completely outclassing Yusuke.
This little skirmish is also kind of interesting, with like the later fight, because Sensui makes a comment later where like he has an attack that like it's like multiple attacks at once, and Yusuke is more of like a direct fighter. Like he excels when it's just like one-on-one, whereas like in this first little fight, like Kuwabara gets involved, and I think Kurama tries to attack Sensui as well. So like it's another point of contrast where like Sensui is able to fight multiple people, but Yusuke can't even fend off multiple attacks.
Right, because Sensui does have that experience. So because he's he was the earlier spirit detective. So yeah, it is good. And when they're on their way out, the Sensui just like waves like a smug asshole. Oh, and I do like the joke where like there's the guy who's going in his car. He's like, "Man, my car is so fast." He's like trying to impress his girl, and then like Sensui's like little fucking Jeep like goes by them, and then you just get on a bike goes by them, and he's like,
"Yeah,
nice car." Can't beat a 14-year-old on a fucking bike.
There's also the part, like the cutaway where like they blow up the apartment, which I honestly forgot was the new apartment that Yusuke's mother had like Yakuza'd her way into somehow.
Oh yeah.
Which even see, and I don't remember if that detail was specifically mentioned in the anime, so it would have made it even more confusing. No, it was more that she used her influence to get Yusuke back into school. Okay, so maybe that wasn't as much of an issue. But anyways, Botan.
Though they did need a new
saves...
Well, no, she did find a new place pretty easily after the other one burned. So
yeah, but like I don't know, I just thought it was like a random apartment. They're like, "Oh, my apartment." I'm like, "Oh, that's the one." Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But yes, there's a bookcase that's gonna fall on Mitarai, and Botan is good, so she pushes him out of the way.
Yes.
Just
because like she even mentions, it was reflex of her. Like it was just completely natural for her to get this other person out of the way, and she ended up getting hurt herself. Though I was wondering, though, is Botan human or formerly human, I guess, as a spirit, or is she like a kind of like underworld creep being? Like that I don't remember. Like for all intents and purposes, like I mean, all fictional characters are like none of them are human. They're fictional characters, right? Who we see humanity in, though in the context of the narrative, like I forget if she's human or not, because like Sensui's human in the context of the narrative, where Kurama's a demon, so I don't remember.
Here I was about to go off on a meme like, oh, Shonen has no good female characters. Whereas, like, she has this big, not a big moment, but it's like a small moment where she is contributing to the themes of the arc, but she's not actually human, so it's a lie. Togashi more like
Only humans are bad. Demons are good. But anyway, oh yeah, that's right. We get the sniper battle, where Yusuke's on his way, and then Sniper goes to take him out.
This is also really cool because there's just the part where well, I mean, he's got all his different weapons he can throw, but one of them is literally just like this giant truck.
Yeah, he kind of does like what Vanderdecken did, but like literally like 20 years earlier, or 15, 20 years. Yeah, I think it was closer to 15. But like, because Vanderdecken did it with Noah, because he also has, they have very similar abilities. But yeah, so it was a neat little... But it was neat to see it here too, because it's like, he just throws the fucking whole vehicle at him.
Yeah, because at first Yusuke's like, oh, I can hitch a ride and find the sniper guy, but that is
there's a car. Oh no, it's a car. Yep.
And it's also another one of those fights where Yusuke likes direct confrontation, and this guy does not do that. He's way off on a mountain somewhere.
Which again fits that kind of like, well, I guess I can bring it up now because like sort of what I thought was interesting about how they, it was highlighted that the antagonists, push the opponents down and highlight their own strengths, is that also matches their ideals, because like they're trying to push the rest of humanity down to their kind of level of being shitty, so it's like how they fight matches their, how they express their ideals, like, especially with Sensui and Doctor, or I knew his name, I said it earlier, where like everyone is shitty as them, so which justifies them. So again, kind of pushing everyone else down and highlighting their quote unquote strengths, So I just thought it was an interesting connection between how they go about their like not even fighting, but even just how they set up fights and stuff versus, it was neat. But anyway, the fight ends when Hiei comes out of fucking nowhere and stabs
yeah, somehow he manages to save Yusuke from the exploding truck and also stab the sniper from behind.
The fastest little boy, little demon, tiny demon. I got stabbed by Hiei because I called him small. I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to do there. Delete it from the podcast.
I also just I really like the page spread of him stabbing the guy, because he just has like this kind of like blank expression on his face. Like he is just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, he does. This is just thing he does.
But then we also
kind of comes back later.
Yeah, I was gonna say we find out later that he specifically stabbed him in a spot where there were no vital organs or like muscles or anything.
Right. Because like the doctor was impressed, and also that's when he realized like, yeah, we're going to lose this, because like he's just impressed with that like level of like skill. But also like, they're like, because yeah, this is, again, the demon who's like still, he's not he's being the soft boy, he's being the edgy soft boy, like he's literally sticking an edge through his enemy, but he's being a soft boy while doing it. That's such a good like way to frame it. I think I said that back when you explained it, but it's so perfect.
Yes, he's good.
The edgy soft dichotomy, and then we get a nice little fight between Yusuke and Hiei, because like Yusuke's like, because again we're going back to the like the life and death stakes versus just fighting for the sake of fighting, and I guess Yusuke is also, or maybe it's more that Yusuke hasn't had a straight fight in a while. Like it's been just these mind game like trickery bullshit things, and so by giving him like a straight fight, because that's how Yusuke is, he's straightforward. He is able to like loosen, he loosens him up and relaxes him a bit, which is just, he is being a good boy.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned earlier, where like, of course people will do, like when people are at their worst is when they have a, like a higher tendency to do worse things. And so like by disorienting Yusuke and whatnot, it's almost like Sensui's trying to test him or whatever. Right. But then Hiei's here. But actually, this is all bad because it just does the shonen trope of the rival fights the protagonist character for reasons.
Well, yeah, it's like
For anyone listening to this, I'm not being serious. I'm memeing.
Okay, I was listening to it and about to take it seriously, but no, it's good.
There's also that's right. There's the wait. I think this was here where it happened.
The two demons or something else?
No. It's just an art thing. The two demons do show up later, but there's just the one panel where Hiei's like, yeah, I'm not gonna help you, and Yusuke's like, not even for you can get the chapter black, and then there's just the panel of Hiei like looking back, and then Yusuke's got the cat face, and it's good.
That's a good exchange, especially because like Hiei's ears get big when Yusuke mentions the chapter black, and he's like, "Oh, I'm like," it's like he's listening, and then he like looks over, and Yusuke's just like, "Yeah, I gotcha, bitch."
Yes.
Good interactions. And I also like the 2 pages where like they're looking like hyper detailed, because again like Togashi's style, it's just like you literally see it across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, where it's like you got the goofy comedic stylization, then you got the more normal stuff, and then you got Togashi's fucking crazy levels of detail before they destroy the demons. And it's good. Like it's good that he's able to put that out still, even though like he's also starting to have his art issues as of this arc. So
yeah, and it is kind of interesting when you see, especially in these later chapters, where you can kind of get some of those extremes, where you'll see the places where he probably had to cut corners just for a lack of time, but then you can see like by seeing where he decided to cut those corners, you see where he put the focus with the art, which I think is just kind of interesting.
Yeah. But like I said, it becomes even more noticeable, way more noticeable in Hunter x Hunter. But anyway, so...
the meme page with the turkey versus just like the crowd of people.
It's just such a perfect microcosm of Togashi's art style. Is like, here's where he puts the time, and here's where he doesn't. But it's also funny because, like, it's the turkey. This was the most important thing in the chapter for Togashi. That dude was hungry. Like, he wants something more than cup noodles, so he's gonna draw the fuck out of that turkey. So anyway, it's kind of... and I guess, like, this is where Genkai mentions how they're sort of, like, push... it's where... Because, even if she doesn't mention it, I'm mentioning it, like, the whole time, but it's... it also comes up again here, where like they reach the cave, and they're thinking like, we should be sure to go in with as like few pieces, just to scout. Like they're trying to come up with a strategy, and then it turns out like, oh no, they need 7 people. Like they need to go out of their way to get people so that they could actually do the devil the game. So it's like, again, they come up with a strategy, but it doesn't matter because they have to play by their enemy's rules.
And then Togashi just rips himself off in Greed Island when a similar conflict happens.
Oh, that's right, with the dodgeball game where they need a certain amount of players.
Although that was kind of a different reason, but again, we'll get to it.
Game, but yeah, we'll get to it in a few months.
Well, yeah, because like, okay, well now I just said we'll get to it. Now I'm gonna say it because like in this they have the people, but they're trying to hold people back, whereas in the others they don't have enough people, and so they just get mooks.
Yep.
Also, Togashi's doing the thing with the art, and it could just be easier for Togashi to do this because he doesn't have to draw the character. But like, there's a panel where Kurama's like, "Who's played this game before?" And it's a couple of characters there, and then Genkai has a bubble, like a text bubble, but she's not in the panel because she's tiny. And it
which was funny.
Yeah, like even if it's there as just like an art shortcut, it's a good joke and it works
because she's so teeny. Yeah, no, it's good.
Because he would do that with Hiei too, and that's something he's like kind of always done.
Yeah, well, with Hiei he'll have like his hair sticking up a little bit because it's taller than his head, so it's it is good. Because taking shortcuts isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. Like, I understand if people don't enjoy the Hunter x Hunter chapters because of their it's a visual medium, but at the same time, like, it is interesting to see clever or creative shortcuts. Because again, I'm not going to bemoan anyone for not like it's a rough medium, okay? Like, just So, I mentioned I do the play-by-post role play, and I guess, like, there's an idea that, like, episodic storytelling is somehow easier to write than long-running storytelling, and I think I disagree entirely because I've been doing a role play it's Super Sentai-based. We're on episode 4 after over a year, so we've literally only had 4 episodic conflicts in a year, and I'm like, these creative teams put out 50 episodic conflicts in a year.
Yeah, it's a completely different style of writing because, it can be
right,
tough
like,
to craft narratives that have, like, clear through lines and, like, connections that were foreshadowed and stuff well in advance. But it can just as easily be tough to craft, like, a small story that is impactful but also doesn't have extraneous details and ties up everything it needs to.
Right, and that's a big hurdle with episodic story. Because, I mean, you could say, like, yeah, it's ultimately an ongoing story, but it's divided into these little 20-page episodes. So and coming up with one of those, like, because, like, they can't just be, like, an
especially
ongoing thing.
if
they have to end on a certain, like, note,
Yeah, and if especially, like, if it's not just a one-off and they're, like, not connected, but, like, if it's, like, Space Dandy, where there's, like, it's a series of episodic episodes, and, like, you can probably find certain connections between different episodes. So, like,
it does pay. There's a payoff to it that I won't spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it, because Space Dandy is a good show and you should watch it. And I should rewatch it, honestly. Yeah, no, it's like there's definitely a difference between, and it is interesting. Yeah, it's I'm in the camp of people don't necessarily give enough credit to creators.
Yeah,
and that saddens me because I like. Actually doing writing, I'm like, holy shit, these guys are kind of like, I just do YouTube videos. This is way less effort. Like, I do one video every like 2-3 weeks. That's nothing. And it's not even super. I mostly pay other people to edit. So, like Mathwiz, you should watch the Marines video that she edited for me because I paid her money. So yeah. Like I said, it's interesting to see creative like decisions and shortcuts because like. It allows them to spend more time on the good stuff, and that's really like emblematic of Togashi's style. Is the doing the low detail short stuff allows him to do the high detail amazing stuff, because the high detail amazing stuff is really amazing.
Yes.
So, but anyway, we get the Game Master battle with the Demon King.
It's so good. Can I talk about how like Kaito is basically probably my favorite shonen jobber character? Because he shows up and he has his conflict with Kurama, which is really interesting, and it's like a good mental game, which kind of like sets the tone for what the arc is going to be as far as like the conflicts are concerned.
Yes.
And then he comes back.
He's got a rivalry with Kurama from school, where they're both like really well performing students, but he wants to win.
And then he comes back later here, and like even when he gets blown the fuck out, he looks cool doing like he has a moment because like with the quiz that he has, he's able to guess it after like 2.5 words into what however long the question would have been, and that's already impressive. Like it goes to show how much how much
he's basically doing like a more minor version of what Amanuma is doing, and it's still impressive. But it's like. But then Amanuma goes like way over the top.
Where he memorized the algorithm. He's played it so many times that he knows the algorithm.
Right. So it's like Kaito, like you said, Kaito's already impressive in doing something that like you wouldn't expect from a normal human being. But Amanuma, he's the Demon King. He's well beyond a human being in this skill. Even though, I mean, of course he is human, but it's like, relatively speaking. And
I think another thing that makes him cool in Yu Yu Hakusho specifically is the fact that he like not only is he a jobber character in a shonen action manga, but he is a non-battle jobber character in a shonen action. Like he doesn't fight, he doesn't have like fighting combat ability or anything, and yet he's like one of probably my favorite elements of this arc.
And I gotta add something that might make you like him more if you haven't thought about it yourself, because like. As on the last page of their battle, what they point out is that, like, he even when, like, faced with this overwhelming opposition that he does ultimately lose to, he doesn't give up. Because he keeps trying. He like, even though he hits the buzzer faster and randomly guesses, because even a random guess is better than doing nothing
Yes.
and giving up. So he's got that shonen sort of like Tatakai, keep trying.
Yes.
See, like I hadn't thought about some of the things you said, and I only just thought about this one just now. But like, yeah, Kaito's, I don't think I'd put him quite above Mitsurai, but he'd probably be as far as like Chapter Black characters.
Yeah.
I think that bumped him up to number 3 for me. So Sensui, Mitsurai, and then Kaito, because I love the way you frame it, where it's like he is really unique, and he doesn't give up. He's a good boy.
This is the ideal of the podcast, where both of our mental energies are able to sync up, but from different perspectives. Like I hadn't thought of the fact that he doesn't just give up, which
Yes.
That's good. That's really, really good.
Kaito video incoming by Mathis.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe
A shonen, or just to maybe if you want to widen it, do just a general on jobbers and then use it to like talk about Kaito because he's good. Oh man.
and it's
You'll be able to bring in your wrestling knowledge. You got to do this video now.
yes, maybe it'll happen. I could probably do it.
Because people dislike them, but like they do offer a narrative purpose. Like I think when people say they dislike or people shit on jobber, like Sanji, he's a jobber because he gets like shat on more than Zoro does, where Zoro does the cool shit, and Sanji got wrecked by Virgo and Doflamingo, and yeah, it is to hype up their strength, but like. I think when people say they don't like that, it's like, either A, they don't like it that it's at the expense of a character from, like, Sanji doesn't get to do as much cool shit as Zoro. And B, I think it's like, it's possibly also like recognizing the artificiality of storytelling where they recognize that, it's a cliche. It's something that happens commonly, but like, just because you recognize the storytelling element for being like an artificial storytelling, that doesn't suddenly make it bad. That's just like all stories are ultimately like a collection of countless artificial elements. So like it just seems kind of arbitrary to focus on individual ones that like are common, So
people also need to just watch some wrestling because they don't have to deal with the suffering that like some of these people are just jobbers with no point and like they just lose. Because
I guess like because I don't follow a lot of wrestling, but like it's a very like non-linear story, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you have individual characters and you kind of focus on the character you want to, and they'll cross over and bounce off with all these other characters. So like I guess that's how wrestling works. So
yeah.
Whereas shonen, it's kind of like you're forced to focus on the character like the author wants you to. So it's like most of the time, like in Yu Yu Hakusho, it's Yusuke. In One Piece, it's Luffy. And Naruto, it's Sasuke and Naruto. Like it'll jump between them, like even if it's mostly on Naruto, obviously, So, but wrestling, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Where you are able, so like even if a character is a jobber in another storyline, he's still able to like it. That can be it can be different in like regards to his character arc, where compared to the arc of the character he's jobbing to. Obviously I'm saying characters because like I know they're like the line is thinner when it comes to wrestling and kayfabe, but like.
No, yeah.
It's just easier for me to talk about that.
No, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. But no, that like I hadn't thought about that. It's a good that's the real first battle because like the first ones are to the demons where it's just like they kind of like lose a bunch of their best players like because Genkai and I see I thought it was kind of weird like because like it does have the better payoff with Kaito actually doing the Game Master, but like Yanagisawa has the copy ability, which is like so he can replicate Kaito his smarts at least, but he can also I don't know if there would be a situation where he would want to copy anyone else like Kurama, but like he's basically a wild card, and they pop their Joker in against the Mooks, and I'm just like that's not a very good tactical decision, guys.
Yeah, I guess now that you mention that, there probably could have been more potential for that character to do. And
right.
Okay, here's something I don't really have any basis for, but I almost wonder because we do find out that like the day for when like the hole is supposed to be opened, it keeps changing. Like it goes from like 2 weeks to like 1 week to 2 days to it's happening. Yeah. Which, and again, like I said, I have no basis for this, so I could be completely wrong. But I almost wonder if maybe Togashi might have had like other ideas, and maybe this arc could have been longer if he wasn't suffering from health issues.
Possibly.
But again, like I said, I have no basis for that, really.
Yeah, because, like, I will say, like, I honestly think, like, Yusuke obviously gets more, but, like, he is able to give, like, relatively speaking, I'd say everyone overall got more than they did in, of the main four, got more than they did in the Dark Tournament.
Yeah.
So like even if but I mean Dark Tournament was a longer arc, but still.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that like this arc needed more material, because as is, this arc is like really fast paced, and it like gets and like
and
none of it feels,
it's interesting.
It doesn't waste time, which is a big strength it has, as opposed to like Dark Tournament, where there were a lot of fights where I kind of just felt like sometimes it was a slog to get through, but Chapter Black just goes.
Yeah, no, it's good. So anyway, after Kaito, Sensui's watching his movie where he's like, I like the message of this movie. It's about how genocide is fine if it's for the greater good. And I'm like, oh god.
That
or something like that, or maybe that was a Vizism.
Yeah, I think that might have been a Viz. Yeah, it was a Vizism. Okay, because I do have those two panels. Because the fan translation was something about like the plot is standard. It starts off being about love, but then degrades into murder and violence, which is not the same as like genocide and the cause of a greater good. I mean, like
both
it's similar.
Are supposed to like tie to his character, but like that the fan translation is more interesting, I'd say, because that's Sensui. You know, he fought to defend humanity because he loved it, and then he evolved. Because that's also what Itsuki talks about, how what he loves about Sensui, his humanity, something pure being corrupted. Like because Itsuki's kind of not a good, ideal person himself.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the examples where some nuance gets lost by the way it's translated. Because, like, he is trying to do a genocide because, I mean, like, it's... Well, actually, no, is he even... He's just trying to open a portal, which I guess could cause... Never mind, I'm thinking about it too much.
But anyway, so we get to the kind of the last round where Kurama realizes that, Amanuma is he's just there to kill time so that he can have a better chance, and because
they even mention that like Kurama tells him straight up, which is to make sure that the game ends faster, because he knows they're Kurama, no,
like it's rough because like, and because they describe how the game is like they won't die unless they give up, which is basically death in itself. So because if they give up and decide not to play, then they can't stop the portals. So it's everyone dies. But whereas Amanuma will die if they succeed, because he's the gamer king. Because he gets completely shaken. Oh, and it's just like, I know I don't want to die. I know it was stupid.
And
then and then the whole and then the fucking panel of Kurama in the with his hair and it's just the one eye, and it's just like he's pissed. Like, oh man, it's good because and of course because Kurama is also the one who cares about humanity. He's a demon who didn't think very highly of them, but then he found the kindness of this one mother, and now he does care about humans. As we also saw it in the flashback chapter with Hiei. And so then he's just this. There's this innocent kid. He was a kid. Kurama grew up as a kid with the perspective of a century-old demon. And he just sees that because that's also Sensui's doing what Itsuki loves from Sensui, where he's taking this kid and piece of shit.
Yeah, and the whole time Kurama realizes that he's been set up, but he doesn't have any other options, and so he's just not happy.
Right, because it's he did he explained it so that Amanuma could choose to go from there, but he's also he has to pull the trigger to go forward, and so kind of like what Yusuke was saying earlier, where it's oh man, I had to kill him with the doctor, and that was a piece of shit, where it's Yusuke's getting beat up over that, where Kurama is ooh, because this is basically an innocent kid who was exploited, and it's good. Oh, okay. So here's the thing about the weekly manga, because I'm kind of realizing is right after this, like I said, kind of brutal stuff in a way, where the calm before the storm, Botan and Koenma are talking outside. And Koenma says, I've been trying to get permission from my dad to take out this pacifier. And Botan has, a really over-the-top, oh my gosh. And, part of me wonders if it's supposed to be framed as if like it can be taken as a joke because we don't have the context of what the pacifier is and what it can do. Because it's like, and her action is like, there's all these like sparks and lightning behind her. So I'm wondering if like, because she's so shocked. So I'm like, maybe it's supposed to be taken as like either, because it's like, it is kind of a
well, yeah,
like,
yeah, because she also isn't sure what that does. She doesn't know what that means.
Oh, okay, that's the thing.
So
yes, you're right. She doesn't know. So, but like, I guess she's just like feeling like his seriousness and maybe having a strong reaction, but also like it's also like, again, it's so over the top over something that's kind of like without context. It's just kind of silly.
Yeah.
So it's like not quite a mood whiplash, because like you said, it can be taken a couple ways, especially with foreknowledge. But it's like it is just at the heart of it. It is goofy. Like the baby's gonna take out his pacifier.
Oh no,
I don't know. So yeah, it's just like I just thought like scrolling through. I'm like that's a little whiplash, which I don't mind, but it's just funny. So anyway, they did make it through. They're finally there, going out to meet. They bump into Sensui, Itsuki, and Gourmet has Kuwabara on the boat. The demons are getting hyped up to go, though as we find out later, like they're just a weak small fry with no like forward thinking ability at all, and the S class ones are gonna wait until it's safe because they're smarty boys. Oh, I guess the first thing we get is Kurama versus Gourmet, who turns out to be Elder Toguro. Because Gourmet ate Elder Toguro to get his power, but Toguro flipped it around.
Yeah, there is a bit of like a horrifying sort of concept, like the guy, his mind slowly being taken over. But
yeah, I mean, not that Gourmet's power was like like it was already kind of fucked up in the first place, because it's like, yeah, he eats people and gets their powers. But then you got Elder Toguro, who's like, nope, not so simple. And also, okay, I kind of thought it was a little humorous in the absurdity, because we find out what happened to Elder Toguro after he got wrecked on during the Dark Tournament, because he put out like an evil wavelength so that Sensui can find him, or someone could find him, and he got found by Sensui. I just thought the concept like evil wavelength.
Yeah, and that's not a visism. Like that was in the fan translation too.
That's what I was gonna ask about, but it's just something about it's just kind of like absurd when you like step back and think about it. So it made me laugh a bit, because I've talked about how Elder Toguro is kind of like the comically evil at times.
Yeah. So like, what is an evil wavelength?
What does that mean? No, it's fine. It's just silly in a way. So I just wanted to poke fun at that a little bit.
I feel like
the actual fight was or go on.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like the anime at some point had kind of a cut, because like we do see a flashback to, so the way it progresses in the manga is like we see Sensui find Elder Toguro, and they have like a short conversation, and then we don't see we don't see Elder Toguro again until now, and then we get the flashback to him being eaten and taking over
we did see the one page with Sensui and Elder Togoro's head talking a while ago.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. And I think
and then this.
I think how the anime might have done it was when they had that conversation, they might have just shown Gourmet eating Elder Toguro and done that as like a way to build suspense or something.
Yeah, because that was not in the manga for sure, and I don't that part I don't remember from the anime. Like fucking what was it? Like I said, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, so.
Because I thought I had remembered it being kind of set up a little more, and then like the twist being that he's actually Elder Toguro, but.
Yeah, where here they give you the Elder Toguro thing first, and then explain how that happened.
Yeah.
What did you think about the fight in general, though? I mean, it
is kind of the. I mean, not that I have a problem with it, but it is what some people would probably decry as having like the ass pull finish, where Kurama just comes up with a plant we hadn't seen before, or he doesn't come up with it, but like he has a.
It also is kind of weird because Elder Toguro has mind reading abilities, but he's like, I don't know, he's not able to pick up Kurama's plan, and there's no real trick to it, like compared to with Yusuke, like it just happens. So I'm not sure if I'd call that a plot hole.
What Togashi could have done, as like a twist on what had happened, where like Toguro slowly took over the mind of the guy. But if like he could have read Kurama's mind and known that like, oh, there's a plant, because as soon as he showed up, Kurama threw the plant seed at him or whatever. So there wasn't really any time for him to react, I guess.
Okay.
So there could have been there's a plant seed that's gonna trap me for eternity, and I'm screwed. I don't know how that would have worked
that would
either.
be interesting if he read the mind and like saw his but also it's also interesting to see him not realize that because he's trapped in the illusion, where he's basically because he's kind of faced with like someone like himself, where he can't he's someone who can't die, as we've seen. Like he's basically like Kuwabara like crushed him. Toguro punched him with like a huge amount of his power.
He was just and he regenerated.
He got eaten by a power who's like a character. Like usually the territories are pretty absolute. Gourmet's territory is inside him, and it still couldn't stop Elder Toguro. Like the dude's, and now he's got like more powers. Like if Elder Toguro wasn't stopped here, he'd just like never stop. Like if he ate all the the ability to take other powers is inherently like one of the most broken abilities in anything ever.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, he was kind of faced with an immortal like himself, and he's just like, why won't you die? And then he's stuck in eternal hell. So that's good for him.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's garbage. I guess maybe you could say that like if you really wanted to inspect like the ass pull nature of the fight, which again like I don't really care about that sort of thing, but like maybe you could say that like Togashi might have written himself into a corner by the guy being immortal
and having multiple powers and stuff. Like again, the mind reading just kind of gets ignored.
Yeah, it's definitely not a sort of like Nen situation where like with Nen it's kind of hard to have a broken ability.
Yeah, well, because
because it's a system based on limitations, and that's where you get your power from the limitations,
right? Which is Nen is so it's so good as it is like in so many ways. Like Nen is a really solid power system. Like I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's really well designed. Like I don't think anyone can deny that. But we'll talk about Nen. Oh boy, we'll talk about Nen in Hunter x Hunter. So anyway, Kuwabara gets returned to the gang, and Itsuki steals everyone to puts them in like a sort of subspace to keep them occupied. While I switched to the fan translation, by the way.
Yeah.
So, just letting you know in case I bring up something, because I've been using Viz up to this point, and now I'm switching to fan translation for the rest. I'm not gonna I guess I'm not quite as interested as a swap between, which I mean I should be, because like it again like so. Thank you, Mathwas, for putting in the time. I've just been like I do not only this podcast. I started another podcast called The Weed Club. I do the Monster Hunter streams with Vindy. I'm trying to put out videos.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, it's not like I read both translations front to back or anything. It's more just like I would come up to something, and I might have had it open in another tab just to like, oh, this looks kind of weird. Let me check that in the. So that was mostly how it went. Like I would just read something that I wanted to double check.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I didn't bother. I'm a little busy lately, and that's on top of the job. But anyway, so yeah, Itsuki brings them into the floor dimension, because he's able to control lower level demons. Actually,
this is kind of to reference back to something you'd brought up earlier, only because I forgot I had the screen cap of it. You had mentioned the author comment from Togashi about like how when he would get stressed, like part of a way of working through that was to do it all himself. And that's interesting because there is another one of the like the beginning of the volume comments where it's a very like I don't want to say negative is like, like there's no reason for it to be negative, but like Togashi kind of some pessimism perhaps creeping in. Like he's got like manga terms dictionary, assistant, a person who helps out with the work, sometimes doing as much as 99% of it. It's like gastritis. The more the assistants wind up suffering from this.
Kind of because he ends off on the Yu Yu Hakusho ending essay basically saying like, I ended the manga for my own selfishness. I'm sorry. Like because like the thing, I think one thing is like he was talking about was like how spending time on doing other things would stress him out more because he's feeling like I'm not getting enough work done. And like Super Fetch Wolf highlights that in like I think also especially the why you should still watch Hunter x Hunter video, the second one, which I forget if I mentioned this before. that was the first video he uploaded after I did my critique of Super Apex
Yeah.
Wolf. And I didn't watch it until after AX, and when I watched it, I was like, oh, fuck, because he was already not feeling super great about,
Yeah,
like,
that was
you know,
that
his
was the
content
video where
and,
he
like,
said he'd be taking a break.
yeah, and then, like, literally right before he uploaded that one, I'm like, here's a 50-minute video explaining why Super Apex Wolf's content has issues. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, I remember watching that, and I was like, oh no, he's not going to mention Craftstore's video, is he?
Yeah, no. He, like I said, at Anime Expo, he explicitly told me, your video had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, because I hadn't watched, I think the last video I watched for that video was Baki, because I remember Final Fantasy came out, like, while I was making that video, and I think Hunter x Hunter came out after I finished it. Maybe another one came out, because that video took a while. So, yeah. I think I mentioned, I don't know, I liked his, I didn't watch his Gantz video. I'm trying to remember what else he uploaded. Oh, I liked his Simpsons video. I don't know, just saying, I like that video. So it's like he's able to make, you know, content that's more appeals to me in some way. So,
But anyway, what I had kind of mentioned that for was because you'd said like Togashi would do the work himself, and I almost wonder, you know, like in the author comment, he says he did it for his own selfishness, but
that does kind of say the reverse, yeah.
Yeah, because like I wonder if he would do it
like,
himself so that he wouldn't burden his assistants, like maybe if there was some
True.
sort of like insecurity
Possible.
about that, because like I see this author comment, and you know, maybe I'm also kind of projecting a bit as someone who is concerned about, you know, like burdening others with stuff, and like, which kind of like Yusuke, the protagonist, more for the Yusuke is a self-insert for Togashi. Anyways.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that almost made me wonder, because then there's also like a thing where it's like another term, not making in air quotes the deadline, the least the artist can do to ease his conscience. So I don't know. It was just an interesting thing.
Because, well, see, that's because, like, the volume comments and stuff are going to be, like, Togashi's thoughts closer to when they were actually happening. I don't know when the essay came out relative to, like, the actual ending of Hunter x Hunter. Like, maybe it was in the last volume. Maybe it was from a little later. I don't know when it came out. So, but anyway, Itsuki gives the backstory, where, you know, he saw Sensui as this innocent. Well, first he was like, you know, someone who's ready to kill him, and then, like, as he was asking about demons, he was more innocent, and Itsuki was attracted to this, and then he's talking about how he's just delighted by corruption, basically, like, oh yeah, a cute little girl who believes basic, you know, growing up to be in porn movies, like, he just loves that, he's a fucked up dude. So, like, I guess, I'm not sure if I'd say, like, because, you know, I talked about how Sensui is grooming these children, I'm not sure if I'd say the same for Itsuki, like, if he had that involvement, so to speak, or if he was just, like, a passive observer, but,
Yeah, because he says he was more there to, like, support Sensui's desires, so it wasn't like he was actively telling him to go one way or another.
Like, it's not like a Madara Obito thing, where, like, oh yeah, where he's, like, directly getting involved with the life-changing things, you know, but he's just like kind of, it seems like he's more of an observer.
It's not to say that he might not have had any influence, but it's not like a direct sort of thing.
Because, like, at this, you know, even if he's not doing anything, he's also not stopping it. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not sure if it goes as far as to say enabling, but it's you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sensui wants to fight, and Yusuke's like, all right, let's fight. Like, he's even like, yeah, why do you have to overcomplicate things? Just say, let's fight. And, like, he goes on a big old speech. And, because Sensui brings up something important where he says, like, where he says to Yusuke's, because he points out Yusuke's desire to fight, and, like, oh, the rotten part is the real you. And, like, eventually you won't care about fighting for others and just want to fight for the sake of fighting and to see blood and death. Like, he's basically saying that Yusuke will become more akin to Toguro, but, I mean, but possibly even worse than Toguro, which is, you know, because Toguro wasn't like that. Like, he didn't want to see blood and death. He's deliberately went out of his way to ensure Yusuke wasn't being, like, harmed more than, like, yeah, he was still, you know, pushing Yusuke to his limits and, you know, doing some fucked up shit, like, you know, making him think his friend was dead. Like, that's not a good thing, but he's also not, like, actually killing, you know, he's not trying to put Toguro or Yusuke through what he went, you know? So,
yeah, it's interesting you bringing up, like, the comparisons, but like the comparing and contrasting of Toguro and Sensui. Thematic breakdown win. But then yeah, like seeing how those are reflected through Yusuke is interesting.
Yes, because it's a really interesting, because that's the one aspect of his character I'm kind of latching onto, and I definitely think it's interesting. Because I thought after Dark Tournament, because I think what latched me onto it was in the thread about the translations. It specifically mentions I think it's Sensui, like how the fan translation gets that. That was it. It was Sensui enjoying battle for the first time fighting Yusuke, compared to in the Viz translation, it's more like he always enjoyed fighting like Yusuke, which is a pretty big difference. And that's what kind of got me started on the idea. And then I really saw it in the Dark Tournament, and then it got even more heavily explored here. So I'm like, yeah, themes.
Hey, Kraftstorf, does this mean that Yu Yu Hakusho is better than a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10 or whatever you had it at?
I mean, I think I put it at a 7 now.
Yeah, we did it. 7 out of 10. That's pretty good.
Because, I think... Because, a lot of people really deeply love this series, especially for the, mostly, I feel like I've never seen someone who has the manga as maybe not never, but, mostly it seems to be for the anime adaptation, which, seems to be improving a fair amount. Because that's the thing, Togashi as a manga author, he can put out amazing shit, but there is the inconsistency that you kind of have to address, and I think adaptations of his work are able to subvert that, which I think gives them more appeal in that sense, where it's if you don't like how the Succession War arc is going in Hunter x Hunter, if it ever gets adapted, it's gonna be those issues are gonna be gone, because it's a pretty well done adaptation, I'd say. I liked it.
Except for the people who complain about the narrator in the Chimera Ant arc, they will never be pleased.
I mean, people will, there's also a comparison from that, or a complaint about that fight. I'll just text. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just gonna text you the meme line, which I know you've heard, but
Oh yeah.
So it's just that aspect of the mechanics of Nen, which ass pull and blah blah blah. Because people Alexander was just tweeting about how the Gon power up against Neferpito is not a fucking ass pull, and it's people complain about Hunter x Hunter, so because I think last time I did say oh yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho gets a pass where other series are shit on, but at the same time maybe it's just Hunter x Hunter is relevant, so it does get more complainers.
Yeah, I wonder if Yu Yu Hakusho, it might just be more that it is more of a classic, and so it's either that people who would be likely to make those complaints aren't watching it because it's an older anime, or
they're not gonna if they don't like Hunter x Hunter, why are they gonna go check out Yu Yu Hakusho? So that kind of thing. If they're the type of people who complains about that stuff, they probably don't like that much shonen, or they just turn that off when they are talking about the shonen they like. I'm not sure what kind of things these people would like, because they could just be people who don't like shonen in general, but Hunter x Hunter is the best one, so they check it out anyway because it's super well liked and stuff. And it's an accidental seinen. Whatever people say about, I don't know, it's a deconstruction. Blah 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 blah. I forget what my point was.
Yeah, and I forget too, because there was something I had wanted to bring up earlier and I forgot, and I wanted to bounce off of this.
Why are the Yu Yu Hakusho episodes so long? It's 40 chapters. We're 2 hours in and we're still got a good handful left.
Do you remember how that ramble started? Because I trying to remember what I was gonna bounce off of that.
Sensui Viz translations, liking fighting themes, people who don't like Hunter x Hunter, ass pulls.
Oh, yeah, okay, so I had wanted to mention something. Actually, I don't even know if this was... I might have had 2 points, and this is the lesser important one. But it was interesting from, the perspective of, the dialogue boxes popping up, and, this arc in particular, we were seeing more of, the information boxes and sometimes some inner monologue in places where Togashi might have done something else before. It's interesting because the anime translated that narration over as well. So especially I remember distinctly in the final chapter in our reading where it's focusing on where are they now sort of thing, and there was a narrator in the anime too, just kind of saying this is what the characters are up to.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting comparing that to Hunter x Hunter, where Hunter x Hunter sort of conditions you from the beginning that there will be some sort of narration involved or some inner monologues. Whereas like with Yu Yu Hakusho, that wasn't, not that Togashi never used it, but he definitely would like tell his story through other means. That's right. Now that reminded me of my second point. Because you mentioned again like the differences between manga and anime. And so like from my perspective for Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, I'm coming at it from someone who's already seen
anime first.
Yeah, anime first. Yes. So reading the manga for me is not like okay, so for example, like the way Togashi draws Toguro, you don't get that kind of detail in the anime. That's just not feasible.
Of course,
so,
that's unfeasible. Exactly.
So there is a degree to which the manga has a unique appeal on that front. And so even when the art does kind of have issues because of Togashi's health, I'm not, like I guess, there's a degree to which that sort of negatively impacts the experience. But like for me, and it'll be a big thing with Hunter x Hunter as well, like I have more of a direct line to, like more of a direct connection to the original creator, because a problem I've had with some of my older videos, I think, is I will credit Togashi for things a lot, but without actually having read the manga and like seeing the little comments he'll make and interviews and stuff, like I could be falsely giving credit for something that someone on the anime staff did. So like,
yes,
and that was a thing with
like,
Oda as well, like with the SBS and certain comments he would make, like the things that authors will put in between chapters in a manga volume, that's like direct line to them, which you don't get in an anime because those don't get brought over. So I don't know, it's just interesting coming to the manga from the perspective of already knowing the story, where like I'm not really going to judge Hunter x Hunter or Yu Yu Hakusho super negatively. Like I understood going in that the art would have issues later, but it's not like a big flaw for me because I've already experienced the story before. The anime exists, I can watch that. So for me, I'm kind of like coming at it from a different perspective and kind of,
it's almost like a research perspective. Like you're still enjoying it as a piece of work, but you're also, it's an aspect of research in a sense, where it's like you're seeing like, oh, this is the story that became this anime I already watched, So yeah, I gotcha. Well, I was gonna say, I think, because another thing, we're like, we say Togashi, like, we're both aware that Togashi is not the only creative voice on this work. Like, he has editors, he has assistants, like, has an audience, like, because that's another thing, is like, people sometimes like say, like, act as if the author is the only thing, like, oh, Oda draws women, he's a sexist, he should be pushed down the stairs or thrown in jail, but because he draws women really thin with big breasts, but like he's writing a shonen manga. He's trying to appeal to people who like shonen manga. So like you don't necessarily like, he might like, I think, and even in the SBS, like, it's a closer line to the author, but he's also still kind of playing a character. In Oda's case, like, not gonna say like it depends on what they write, like, but like, because in Oda's case, he's definitely more goofy and such than he's probably isn't, like, I haven't met the man, but it's like, that's just how it comes across to me, like, with Oda in particular, like other authors, I'm sure too, on some level, like, they're not gonna put their deepest, darkest secrets in a fucking in between volume manga page, not their most personal stuff. So on some level, they're not like, my main point is like, you need to be careful about like what you say about the author from their work, because they're not the only voice. If they're able to recognize how much of themselves are in the work, they're able to like remove that aspect as well. And then who is it geared for? What's the audience? Because like, again, just a lot of aspects of Japanese media and shonen don't appeal to Westerners, especially with like the sexual and perverse character. I did a fucking video about it, so it's like, it's like, so my main point was like, when we say Togashi, like, we do understand that there is like, he has his own issues that we know about, but there's other creative voices too, to like, so it's not 100% Togashi either. So
and that also because I had mentioned the editors earlier, and so that almost makes me wonder, because we know that there are chapters that Togashi drew entirely himself, and some of those can be some of the rougher ones, so that almost makes me wonder how much of like the art, like where some of the detail does end up being, like how much of that is influenced. Like maybe someone does the backgrounds, like when what's his name, Itsuki, like when they're in that environment world. Like I wonder if maybe like an assistant had like done the backgrounds or whatever. Like I'm just kind of curious how much they would have been able to alleviate
who drew that, who drew this, yeah,
you know, like because whatever, not storyboard, that's not the term for the manga, but what's it called?
I mean, it's a name or
you understand what I mean when I say storyboards, like the rough drafts of the.
Yes.
I know that's not what the term that that goes with like manga and comics.
From Bakuman, I don't know how it's like. It might pronounce. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced name. It might be pronounced name. I'm pretty.
That's
sure
right.
it's
That's
name,
right.
though.
Yes, that's what they're called.
Yes. But I could be wrong because I only read Bakuman. I didn't watch the anime. So, but yeah, because like the author definitely does like that, and then their editor, you know, they give it, and then they actually draw the chapter in it. Because yeah, it's like where, because like Oda has claimed that he draws whatever moves, so it's like clouds, you know, wind, ocean, you know, characters, but then it's also insane to think about because like holy shit, like especially during the war, like. You know, just like not just background characters, but like distinct ones.
Yeah.
Like insanity.
I guess
anyway.
I think editors might be more like, you know, like screen tone and like maybe just more like the coloration,
yes.
You know, shading things in and whatever.
Backgrounds is apparently a thing they do like, because that's one Togashi explicitly mentioned how it's like, oh, during the Yusuke versus Sensui, the backgrounds are sloppy. Like where I'm reading now, they seem okay. I mean, there's a lot of speed lines, and action, like, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, is easy to, that's assistant work for sure. But yeah, I would never assume, like maybe I guess, but at the same time, I'm never going to be like, yeah, like, because there's actually, I remember watching, if you're, okay, and to anyone who doesn't know about it, if you're really interested in manga like production, watch Naoki Urasawa's Monben. It's not entirely translated, it's on like Dailymotion, I think, like if you Google it, it should show up. It's a documentary series, each episode is 40 minutes, so focusing on a specific author, and you do, you know, so, like there's one by Fujita, the author of Uchi and Tora and Karakuri Circus. In season 4, there's an episode on Junji Ito, the horror guy. I'm trying to remember if there's any other, like, because they're not, like, manga authors who, there's one who did, the guy who did Children of the Sea, who I remember that one because Naoki Urasawa, I read Children of the Sea, like, years ago, and then reread it, once or twice, I think. But it's, like, because Junji Ito, or not, why did I say Junji? Naoki Urasawa said that, the author of, Children of the Sea was, like, possibly one of the best manga artists, like, period right now, which was interesting. So I don't know, it's an interesting watch if you're curious to see how, like, not only just like, because they showed different, one of them was the guy who did the chapter he was drawing was from the Dead Demon Destruction or something. It was like he's the guy who did Goodnight Poon Poon, and he did more digital stuff. So it was really interesting to see how Fujito is interesting because like he does the names and then he goes straight to inking, where normally they'll do like pencils for like a rough draft and then ink over it. So Fujita like skips a step, but then like you also see the negative side of it because he has to he like redrew one face like 8 times because he wasn't satisfied. So he's like piling on the white out the ink, and it's like so it's an interesting watch. Not every episode is subbed, but I thought it was fun. I mean, maybe it's a bit, I don't know, you also get some backstory on the individual authors. Just recommending that as another, like, thing for manga, because Bakuman does offer some insights. It does take some dramatic liberties, but, yeah. We're way off topic,
Yeah.
Holy shit. I'm sorry.
No, it's...
No wonder these episodes are long. We just care about shonen and manga so much, we just can't stop.
I think this is what some people what the one comment was saying, like, will it eventually reach a point where if you're not super deep into shonen manga, will you not even... Although, you know, the topic wasn't entirely shonen manga. Anyways.
True, yeah. So yeah, anyway, the Yusuke and Sensui are fighting. And yeah, you get the point you were talking about earlier where how Yusuke is used to one-on-one fights and can't take attacks from multiple angles, like Sensui's throwing at him. Oh! I didn't notice that before. So in the chapter, it's called it's volume 16, chapter 7 people. So, because I'm pretty sure it's Kuwabara But he says, "Get the hell up, Urameshi." And I only just noticed that he has a giant gap in his teeth and like kind of looks like an eye patch. And I'm pretty sure that's a reference to Ashita no Joe, because the coach character has an eye patch, and I'm pretty sure has a gap in his teeth, or I think he does, or maybe it's another coach character. But it's like, I only just noticed that.
Yeah, I figured it was a reference to something. I just didn't know what.
That I need to. I'm trying to. See, I also watched Megalobox recently, and it has a coach character that has a different name. So my brain's like, I don't want to mix up the two names. So let me check real quick. See, maybe it is... Okay, yeah, see, maybe it is different because the eye patch is on a... Or maybe it's... No, no, it's not flipped. So, but the eye patch is on a different eye, and the... So I think it's a different character. I think, because he doesn't have as pronounced a gap. Or, like, he's got notable... Danpei Tange from Ashita no Joe. He's got, like, noticeable teeth, but not quite a gap, and the eye patch is on the other eyes, so... I guess maybe I don't know what the character it's referencing for sure then. But that was my thought, because get up, that's like a sport thing, you know, it feels like. So anyway, but yeah, Yusuke and Sensui keep fighting. There's one of your fan translation isms, like, why are you swimming, crackhead? Like, what? But yeah, Yusuke takes a swim to like recover and keep fighting. We get the split personality things where Sensui pulls out the gun. Or Kazuya rather. Koenma comes in, threatens to use the sealing stuff. Yusuke stops Koenma, because of course, you know, Yusuke is not going to let someone else sacrifice themselves. You know, we're familiar with this character aspect, but it's, and he also, like, I think he's getting to the point where he says, because it's kind of interesting how he almost, like, you know, kind of, like, Sensui turns out to be right, in a sense, about Yusuke. Because, like, here it is. Yusuke says, like, the whichever Sensui that said, I don't care about the whole anymore, I feel the same way. So Yusuke, like, at this point, he doesn't actually care about, like, the fate of the world or, whatever. He just wants to fight. So he's kind of, like, becoming what not quite what Sensui thought, but he's, like, his focus on fighting has become so pronounced that, like, he doesn't care about the fate of the world, and that's, yeah, so it's kind of like, so I'm kind of curious as to see, like, because I kind of know a bit from memory, but I do want to see how it goes into the final arc, because it's a bit of a low point for Yusuke, because, you know, Sensui is like the last person you want to be right about anything. But I do like the part where he switches to Shinobu, kind of his normal or the original self, and he's like, put it there, let's shake, and then Yusuke like tries to fight and he just gets completely fucking wrecked, and then Shinobu shakes his hand afterwards anyway. Like, class. And I'm also like, the art is, this is like where I feel like this might have been one of the chapters Togashi did himself, because the art is definitely kind of sloppy at this point, maybe not through all whole chapter, but definitely at parts of it. That's just my pure postulation. And here's the part that the fan translation gets long. Shinobu uses the Seiko key, the divine energy. Koenma says that only Genkai could use it, when it's actually that Genkai could not use it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just not sure, like, because like they do have a bunch of, like I said, they have the different types of ki, you know, Yoki, Reiki, Seiko ki. Not quite sure what I'm supposed to take from all of them. I'm not, yeah, but it's and like I said, I'm not sure what the the language context is either, because I don't speak Japanese.
And I don't think it helped. When I had like watched this through with the dub, I think there were certain differences in like the power system or whatever that were kind of just glossed over and kind of lumped together. So I almost wonder if, at least like the dub of this anime, I wonder if I don't remember how they specified it, but
because yeah, like Shinobu, maybe like he's so self-righteous, he has this holy like level of ki, but I'm not sure what specifically unlocks it for him. Like, what am I supposed to take from it for his character? Like, why is it divine? Like, why is it holy? Like, because like the underworld, you know, they seem to manage all the afterlife shit, but they're like, you know, Oni, like, you know, Enma, he's like a demon. They're hand in hand with demons. So like, where's this holy? What is it supposed to be? You know, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm not quite sure what it means either. Yeah, and this is where I actually have a bit of a problem with this final fight in that regard, because like up until this point the arc has kind of like a lot of the conflicts were about, it's not about might, it's about, using tactics and stuff, and coming at things from a different angle.
Power in the end.
And then it does kind of come down to power, unless there's something I'm missing.
No, I more or less agree. Like, because that's basically what it is. Like, Sensui has more power because he has the Seiko key. Yusuke, like, he pulls the inverse of what happened at the Dark Tournament, where he dies so that his comrades can get the power boost. Because, he can't beat Sensui one-on-one. Like, he can't beat this person. Like, Sensui, like, ideologically, it's like Sensui proved to be right about Yusuke, because Yusuke is sort of like, he's focusing more on his enjoyment of fighting than, like, anything else. Well, not anything else, because he is willing to, like, give himself up. But, and then, I think I was going to add something to that, but I forgot.
There's a degree to which I almost find this, like, it's not, like, a funny moment, but I almost think it's kind of, like, just considering it in the broader scope of shonen tropes and how people will talk about stuff, the way that they just, like, directly call attention to, like, oh, it's the friendship death power-up sort of thing, like, oh, I'm gonna sacrifice myself so that you guys get stronger. And it's like, oh, okay, we're just, all right. I mean, because that is what happened, but most don't call that direct attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's also a bit of a moment for Sensui, who's like, because Yusuke says that, oh, you're trying to destroy the world, but Sensui mentions that no, he likes everything except humans, like flowers, trees, animals, even bugs, like, but fuck humans. Just a little bit of a character detail that's notable. Koenma does his Mafukan to try and seal him away, and then I just noticed that there's a panel that's entirely text on that page explaining what the Mafukan is. It's a very Hunter x Hunter panel, so to speak. So yeah, but yeah, Sensui's holy energy is beyond the Mafukan. So here's where Yusuke is about to sacrifice himself. Everyone tries to break free. To prevent that, they try to break free of Itsuki's, what's it called? Barrier. But Kuwabara has the spirit slash, the spatial cutting ability. We cut away to Keiko and Yusuke's mom, who... I kind of forgot.
Yeah, that's a downside to this arc, is Keiko kind of doesn't really do anything. I don't remember
fair.
if...
Like, I'm not sure.
I feel like...
Oh, the anime added anything?
I'm not sure if, like, the anime might have added her into the scenes where, like, they are... like, the part where they... After Kuwabara fights Mitsurai and they're in the apartment, she might have been there. I don't think she was literally absent for the whole arc, but she also... It's not like she was front and center.
I don't even think she showed up in chapter 1 when they were at school. Like, you'd think, like, if Keiko was going to show up, it'd be at school, right?
No, she didn't.
She was there.
I don't think she was there, because it was just Kuwabara and Yusuke and Botan.
Yeah. And then they went, and then Yusuke ran into Genkai's trio, and the arc starts, and pretty much keeps going, and then, like, now all of a sudden it's, oh, like, Keiko. I mean, I will say, like, the levels of detail in them are, like, the hair on Yusuke's mom is, like, there's lots of white in there, so it looks more interesting, but it's, but yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, these characters, they exist.
Yeah.
So it's just fine, but it's a little like, eh. And, but yeah, Pooh is, not moving, and Yusuke got killed. Kind of, not really. Death fake out, dropped, 6 out of 10,
oh, no.
5 out of 10.
We were so close. It all comes tumbling down.
But yeah, the gate opens. Kurama, Kurama goes. He goes. Foxboy. Hiei takes off the bandage. And they end up like heading into the demon world.
There's a pretty cool looking 2-page spread of like when they enter the demon world, and you get like the big atmosphere shot like from the sky view.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we realize that it was Hunter x Hunter all along. We only live in the... See, that's an interesting thing with Togashi's works, is like he has this tendency to open up the scale of his world beyond anything that can reasonably be explorable, which I think is the point. Like, that's definitely the point with Hunter x Hunter. But, like, it's also doing it towards the very end, where it's just like, oh my god.
Which I hope isn't the case with Hunter x Hunter, but...
Well, yeah, like, with Hunter x Hunter, it's interesting because of where we're at now, where we're still waiting for new chapters. Whereas with Yu Yu Hakusho, we know that it ends pretty abruptly.
Yes. Right, because, I mean, I'm sure he wanted, like, I've heard... I don't know actually what interview this came from, because I haven't, or maybe... I forget if I wrote it... Maybe I just forgot. But he, apparently, he said something along the lines of where, like... Or maybe I do remember. I'd have to check my notes. He said that, he wants to explore the ideas in Hunter x Hunter that he wasn't able to in Yu Yu Hakusho, which is, like, possibly why some of the characters are reflections of, like, the Yu Yu Hakusho characters. Like, we've especially talked with Hiei and, Killua.
Yes.
So, yeah, but anyway, there's a bit of a moment where, like, they're stopped, Sensui's on the other side of a barrier, and, he says, I'll wait here for a day, and Kuwabara just cuts through it anyway, because he wants to deal with, because they're pissed off about Yusuke. We finally see Enma, he's a big boy, because Botan went to go, alert, Enma that shit was getting real. They send out their sort of, like, squad that deal with, high-level demon threats, and... There's the spread. I finally reached it where they come out into the demon world. It looks cool. But yeah, Sensui doesn't want to hurt this world either, so he goes to a hill to fight with everyone. And yeah, you're right. The steel key armor is definitely a simple. Like, I mean, it's still got a lot of, like, folds of fabric and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of, but it's definitely less detailed compared to Togoro's fucking Toguro. So yeah, the Spirit Defense Force comes in they're gonna deal with Yusuke.
And they bring the exposition with them. Like, there's just a whole page. I remember, like, flipping to one of the pages and just seeing, like, a wall of text, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, oh my god. It's quite a bit. Because, like, compared to, like, where how Sensui, being retroactive, like, being introduced and retroactively affecting the earlier material, Yusuke's history, I don't think, has that. Where it's like, oh, this explains no, it really doesn't. I don't think I have a problem with it, but it's just like
it's kind of like
also it does.
I was gonna say it's kind of like the Goku is an alien sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Which I mean, like it's not bad for that reason. Like it opens up the story for something new.
Right. Though in this case, it's not a lot. Like comparatively, it's not a lot. Like a lot of new going forward. Like there's not a lot to love the story to go. But I mean, it also gives Yusuke the thing that people don't like of heritage as his that give you power. Like with Naruto, he's the son of the Hokage. He's got handing out power ups, and Yusuke is the same thing. It's just throwing out.
Yusuke's not an underdog. Cancelled. The story's over, folks.
Yep. What? Yu Yu Hakusho isn't about hard work. No. They're about to kill Yusuke, and Pooh comes in, who's like a big bird phoenix boy. That was I completely forgot about that because, like I said, I didn't watch this part in the anime because they stopped. They just stopped airing it when I was expecting them to air it, and I guess I didn't check TV guides enough because this was back in the day. But very sad. Mitsurai doesn't care about like who cares that he's part demon. Because he's good. Mitsurai's a good boy. And Yusuke, it's almost like a callback to fucking one of the earlier chapters that was probably cut from the anime, but he acts like he's this, like, big old demon big shot fucker.
Yeah. He's
like, insolent fool. It's like, that's a fun callback. And then he's just, I'm just fucking with you. Like, the fan translation actually said that. So it's, he's still, like, it's kind of like, because I definitely think, like, growing up is definitely a part of this arc, even though it doesn't quite, like, it's not the end of Yusuke's character arc, obviously, but, like, because, you have these kids who are, were suddenly subjected to Chapter Black, something very horrible, and it, like, Mitsura got PTSD from it, and, like, and then, that goes into how they kind of, like, we'll talk about the epilogue stuff, but yeah, Yusuke is still Yusuke, because, like, he has, like, become more like Toguro, like I mentioned earlier. He's, Sensui's kind of was right about him, in a sense, with the fighting. Like, even after this point, he like shoots the spirit gun from the what presumably is like his ancestor, like a controlling his body, I think is what they talk about. But like he's like, no, dodge it, I don't want to win this way, kind of thing. Oh no, another Bleach comparison. The not full bring.
Oh yeah, with like the power up and you get the long hair and
the Ulki, or well, comparing it to the Ulquiorra fight with the hollow form, where I don't want to win this way.
Too.
But anyway, Yusuke goes back to he follows to the demon world to go fight Sensui. Everyone else is pretty beat up. And yeah, I guess Kurama kind of lays out like your thing with the arc about how it was, it was all about like more about strategy and like tactics and stuff. But then Kurama's like, yeah, your power is just greater than ours. In the demon world, power is everything. Which is something I'm gonna think about going forward. But anyway, the SDF is just waiting for demons, and Yusuke just like powers through, and like, what the fuck was that? His power was, beyond anything in this world. But yeah, now we get the Yusuke versus Sensui final round. There's a bit where Yusuke's like, yeah, I still don't even have a heartbeat. Like, I'm actually dead. Like, and everyone just laughs. And Sensui notes that, like, how Koenma's found some, like, good people. Because they're going through this hard shit and, growing stronger for it, where Sensui kind of, broke. So maybe that's the intent there. But yeah, then we get the last conflict. Yusuke is just well beyond Sensui at this point.
And I will say, like when I had gone through this arc in the anime, I had originally been like kind of disappointed by the way that it ended. And there are certain aspects of that I kind of like still understand why, but maybe it's just something more about like me listening to what the characters are saying as opposed to like actively like, I mean, like I would read the subtitles obviously, or actually no, not if I watch the dub, but I guess like, reading the manga somehow like helps it sink in more. So I actually do like the way that this concludes more than I did originally. So I might actually increase my Yu Yu Hakusho score from what it was before.
Oh my, yeah, because like I kind of get, because like manga is a more active medium. Like, like anime, just like let it play and you engage with it based on what it's doing. Where with manga, there's an aspect to it, but you can go back and reread lines, you can scroll back a few pages, like you have much more control over engaging with it, so it is more active. So I get, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yusuke awakens and does the super spirit gun Sensui gets hit. Itsuki comes back and point reveals that Sensui was in fact already dying. So he's about to die from Yusuke, but he also was never, didn't have much life to live in the first place.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that, like, you have your thing about mind control. For me, it's like, this character actually had an illness, where I'm just like,
That's true.
Because, like...
That is true.
Like, it happened with the...
Because, like, you brought up that with Sasuke and Itachi.
Yeah. And so it's like... I don't know, for me, it's like the character could have just done their actions anyway, and it would have still made sense, but when it's like, oh, there's also the element of tragedy, like, they were going to die anyway. Like, I don't think it's as... I don't know, I don't feel like it adds anything to Sensui, but I also don't feel like it takes anything away.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just one of those details that, like... I don't know, to me it feels unimportant, and so it's like, why put it there? Like, to me it's just a distraction. So I guess, like, by not mattering, like, there's not much of an issue I can have with it, but also that is the issue? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of, like, at least with Itachi, like, it matters, Sasuke is deliberately not allowed to kill anyone until, like, he falls, which is after Itachi's death, and in the Summit arc. So it's like, even if it doesn't like matter specifically to the fight or Itachi's character so much, it like matters to how Sasuke is supposed to be framed, because he doesn't actually kill, like, Deidara kills himself with his explosions. Sasuke let his guard down. Like, he was like, I guess he was about to let Deidara go, which pissed Deidara off, of course. But, like, you know, Orochimaru took him to himself. You know, Sasuke didn't kill anyone until the samurai during the summit. You know, that was going to be the first actual people he killed. So that's something Kishimoto was doing deliberately, even if it was a little like, Itachi was sick, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is like, I'm not sure why it matters myself either. I don't even have anything in my notes about it. But yeah, as we find out that, here's more like just parts with just words and no art, like not the whole page, obviously, but like, because Sensui just wanted to, like he says that he wanted to die in the demon world and not the human world. Like, you know, he just basically explains himself. He says that, you know, he just believed there was good and evil. His view was right. Then he flipped everything and thought that I wanted to be born a demon. And because like that's the thing, Itsuki also takes him away. So like he rejects his humanity so much that he refuses to even be like reborn. Like I forget if it's like reincarnation or like what the mechanics are for the afterlife. Well, I guess it's just passing on. But he refuses to even pass on like a human. Like Itsuki takes his body and soul away so that the spirit world doesn't have control over him. So yeah,
it is interesting because like he has the line about like about there being a good and an evil and how like, you know, there's a good side and a bad side, but then he ends up just he rejects the good as opposed to like developing a more nuanced view of what good and bad can be. Like there's a degree, perhaps a degree of truth to, I think he has a comment. Yeah, he mentioned something about like wars, how they're like, there's a degree to which like both sides are the same, which is where I think he kind of gets the conclusion that like, everything is, you know, all humans are bad or whatever, which is kind of the conclusion he draws from it, which is, you know, obviously what the arc kind of goes against, but like, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, though I definitely think like the intent is like, you know, there is no real functional difference between demons and humans, you know, because demons are also capable of really shitty things. Like, another thing is, like, because he's like, oh, yeah, Yusuke, you know, maybe I, subconsciously recognize the demon side in you, and when I use young, or something like that. And, like, you know, Yusuke, because Yusuke has a love of fighting, but, Sensui is, like, there is no demon heritage. He's only human, and yet he also enjoyed fighting fighting Yusuke. Like, so, like, you know, where Yusuke became more like Toguro, Sensui became more like Yusuke, even though he recognized, like, he's like, oh yeah, that part of you is human, you just want more blood, you hate. But Sensui ultimately becomes more human through fighting Yusuke, and he still rejects that in the end. Like, Itsuki says, like, go find someone else to fight. Like, so he kind of, you know, pulls Sensui away so that, you know, Sensui won't die like human, in a sense. But at the same time, he's also become more human, like more human because of Yusuke, and like he didn't actually like. I don't know if he hated it, like because he said, he says thank you, like he enjoyed being more human in a sense. So it's almost, I'm not sure if I'd say that's an outright contradiction of his thing, but it's like
it's growth.
It's interesting,
character growth.
Yeah. But yeah, like as far as the ending goes, I definitely like the epilogue chapter the best compared to like the Sensui conflict is really great. But yeah, it is just kind of they're fighting, which like I said, I want to see the last arc to really get like the end of Yusuke's character, because this is just his low point, because he's literally like he blasted this man over the horizon. He's like, hey, get up, fight me, heal him, somebody, I want to fight. Like he's kind of like, Yusuke, calm down.
Yeah, it's definitely not the end for him.
Yeah, this is like, see, and I guess that's another, like, if you want to do the full frame comparisons, because like I would say that this arc is Yusuke's like low point as a character, where for Ichigo I would say it was at the end of Arrancar. Like Fullbring explores the low point, but like, you know, it's like this is the end point at the end of like this arc for Yusuke, because of like how the Sensui battle, like, I don't care about the whole anymore, I just want to fight. Whereas with Ichigo, it's like at the end of Arrancar when he gives up all of his powers and stuff and such. So I don't know. Like, again, it's just, it's weird to even compare them because they're just so radically different. It's like, I don't know, what people are just looking at the most basic surface level things, I guess. And I'm just like, okay, sure. I guess all shonen is the same if you want to be that generalizing about it. Anyway, I'm done being mad.
There's also another one of those.
That's not true.
Because you had mentioned it with the Dark Tournament that there was a line like, "Oh, it feels like we've been fighting for a year" or whatever. There's another one of those lines here for the end of Chapter Black.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like these two arcs have taken place over the course of like a couple months, but in Serialization always is like that though. Oh, that's right. Yusuke gets a choice between going to the human world and staying in the demon world. Because if he stays in the demon world, like they point out, like yeah, Yusuke's ancestor is probably still alive and probably like and also way stronger than Yusuke was even when he is right now, even with this demon heritage unlocked and power boost. Like he's already an S-class demon. Like Kurama even points out, like S-class is just the highest rank. Even within S-class, there's going to be hierarchies of demon strength. So it's like, A to S-class is just how the human or how the spirit world guys rank them. So, it's even if there is S-class, it's not like S-class is all equal to each other. So Yusuke is given the choice to stay here where he can fight, or go back to where the people who care about him are, and he ultimately chooses the latter. But the last page is like, he's not satisfied with that choice fully, so... Yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah, so there's more to come. Also, in the Viz translation, this is where they start censoring the cigarettes, because I guess they figured that should have been a sign of growth. That like, while he was a delinquent, it's fine. But now that he's becoming not I don't know. I don't know what the point of it was.
I was about to make a censorship joke where it's like, this arc that just explored like humanity being shitty and evil, and it's like, but Yusuke can't smoke.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get the epilogue, the finale. Amanuma is alive. They were, he just died, and I'm sure the spirit world's like, they gave like he's just a kid, and they're pulling strings, and he's able to like he's not lonely anymore. Like he's connecting with his classmates. He's realizing things that he's connecting with games, especially his passion.
Yeah.
So, and he's like, hey, we're all the same, and so this was fucking Kamiya the doctor. He's like, for being the one who is closest to Sensui in ideals, he fucking goes out and like starts a new hospital, and like he becomes a miracle doctor, someone who can like cure people, because with his powers, someone who can cure people who can't be cured any other way. So he ultimately like does good. Like I'm not sure how I feel about that, because it is like he's just like oh well, I give up, and then he goes off to do good, which is, I don't know, it's weird, interesting, maybe, but like I already talked about Hagiri a bit, where it's like he's talking to, I think, his sister, and she talks about how the people who could like kill it, it was a rabbit, like are just ugly, and Hagiri goes out to hunt them down, like like I said, treating them like individuals and not a collective. Yeah,
because there was like an interesting line of dialogue where they had mentioned something about like, oh, you have the weapon, you'd be interested in testing it out or whatever, but something about like feeling sympathy for the victim or something. I don't know. So it's like a way of showing both sides, that like there's the curiosity, but also there's the empathy. So it's like the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
So, and then there's the last with Mitsurai, where he's like, the teacher's like, hey, you okay? Did something happen? He's like, yeah, my head is clear, and he's gonna get involved with like environmental stuff, and he's all better. And like, so I guess like kind of what I was gonna say is like about the growing up aspect to the arc is because like, yeah, you have these young characters being sort of thrust into like the worst parts of the world, and like Sensui, Mitsurai, and Amanuma especially, and Mitsurai and Amanuma are able to like recognize that like that the nuance, that it's not black and white, and grow and be and able to like move on, basically. Like, yeah, they saw some horrible shit, but they don't want to be that. Where Sensui broke, he became that, and like someone who would have been in Chapter Black. So and it's just a good contrast, I think, and like how, because I definitely think the growing up is the thing with this arc, like I said, but yeah, I like it. And what were you gonna say before I interrupted?
Oh yeah, there was I think it, because again, like I had been flipping between translations, so I think the Viz had it as like, I don't know. He said he has a line where he's just like, you know, feeling good about life or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Sensui and Itsuki go off, and nothing, no one knows what became of them.
I think that's another sort of interesting, like we talked about the way back in the first episode, we talked about the like gender non-conforming, possibly trans character, and so here, like it was explicitly mentioned with Itsuki that like he had love for Shinobu, like there was, which is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Itsuki's a guy.
Yeah, it's just another interesting thing for, like, I don't know, the time period it's in, that Togashi throwing this stuff in, and again...
it's a very twisted, kind of fucked up love.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. So, like, as far as, like, if you're looking for, like, oh, what's the best representation, maybe not that, but, like, the fact that it exists at all in the manga, and, considering the time period and stuff, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because like we talked about with it would be interesting to like see the history of that kind of subject in at least Jump, even if not just manga in general. But we're kind of like not a lot of it's translated, like especially like the essays in academia and stuff not translated at all.
I know I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they were talking about like certain stuff that's in like JoJo. So I guess that could be.
JoJo definitely like has a sort of homoeroticism to it, which. People meme about, but I don't know. If we ever talk about JoJo, then that would be interesting to discuss. But anyway, we're almost done. So, Hiei got Chapter Black, but he wasn't able to like see. He got dragged out of the demon world, so he's like humph.
Yeah.
And then Yusuke got a haircut, but he's like having doubts. He's not sure if he wanted to go back to the human world. And there it is. That's the end of Chapter Black. Good arc.
Would you say it's your favorite arc so far?
Well, kind of easily, honestly. Like Yusuke versus Toguro is good, but this was good like the whole way through. Like not that Dark Tournament wasn't. I don't know. It's just kind of like things happening where Chapter Black had less of that, and it was interesting. The interesting conflict like the whole way through. Even if I don't know, like it's mostly interesting for like Yusuke and Sensui.
Yeah.
But it still has it's good. It's good. I like
it. For me, like I had said at the beginning of the podcast, I originally felt as though when I watched the anime, I felt like it had a strong start and ended kind of but now that I've gone through it again and have like a better grasp of what's going on, no, I think it's just pretty strong the whole way through.
Yeah. No, it's good. So. Already 3 hours in. Recording. The episode hopefully won't be that long.
but do you understand why I had said we should probably do Three Kings a separate episode?
Oh my god, if we were going to do Three Kings after this, I'd be like...
So good call.
Yes. So, next time we are finishing Yu Hakusho, so we will be discussing the Three Kings arc, which is chapters 154 to 175, the rest of the manga. And since this reading is shorter than the first Hunter x Hunter reading, we won't be doing a full discussion on it, but we will be reading Level E, the series that Togashi did after Yu Hakusho but before Hunter x Hunter. It's only 3 volumes. So again, not a full discussion. We're just going to discuss it a little bit. Just a general thoughts on it, maybe some moments we liked. I don't know. Because we did the same with Monster Soul back when between Rave and Fairy Tail. Though in that case we discussed it on the Fairy Tail episode because the Fairy Tail reading was shorter than the final Rave reading. But yeah, so yeah, that's just something we felt like doing. And yeah, so thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.